She mistook a millionaire
Sorry to
single
bother
dad
you,
for her
but
$5
I
blind
couldn't
date.
help noticing your
But
book.
that mistake
Is it
changed
any good?
everything. Hello,
one?
everyone.
Yeah, it's
Before
great.
we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let us return to our main character. At 4:47 in the morning on a Tuesday in March, Sarah Mitchell's alarm did not go off. That single moment of chaos would lead to a $5 coffee date with the wrong man. A mistake that would cost her everything she thought she knew about where she belonged in the world. The leak was dripping again. Sarah woke to the rhythmic tap, tap, tap of water hitting the plastic bucket she kept beside her bed. Her eyes opened to darkness, and for one blessed moment before her brain caught up with her body, she felt almost peaceful. Then reality crashed in like it always did. The rent envelope sat on her kitchen counter, bright red past due notice visible even from across her studio apartment. $1,650. Her bank account held $891. She reached for her phone on the milk crate that served as a nightstand. 5:17. Her alarm had been set for 4:30. She had exactly 13 minutes to get to Pete's Diner for her opening shift. Sarah's feet hit the cold linoleum floor. No time for a shower, no time for coffee. She grabbed yesterday's uniform from where it hung over her single chair, pulled her hair into a ponytail that had long since given up trying to look polished, and was out the door in 7 minutes flat. Her building in Brooklyn Heights had seen better days, probably around the time her grandmother was born. The stairs creaked under her weight as she took them two at a time, and somewhere on the second floor, Mrs. Chen's television blared through thin walls. The early morning news, another shooting, another scandal, another day in a city that never slept because it could not afford to. The March air bitted her cheeks as Sarah half walked, half ran down the empty sidewalk. Street lamps flickered overhead, casting pools of yellow light that did little to warm the pre-dawn chill. A homeless man slept in the doorway of the closed bodega, his shopping cart piled high with everything he owned. Sarah had 47 cents in her pocket. She kept walking. Pete's Diner sat on the corner of 5th and Union, like it had for the past 60 years. Red vinyl booths, black and white checkered floor, coffee that tasted like it had been brewing since the Nixon administration. Sarah pushed through the door at 5:29, exactly 1 minute before her shift started. Pete looked up from where he was wiping down the counter, his weathered face creasing into something that might have been a smile on a man who had not spent 50 years serving eggs to ungrateful customers. "You look like hell," he said. "Alarm did not go off. Same thing you said last Tuesday." "That was my phone dying. This was different." Pete grunted, which was about as close to sympathy as he got. He tossed her an apron. The name tag read Sandy. Sarah had stopped correcting him after the first month. In a place like this, names did not matter much anyway. You were the waitress or you were not. You arrived on time or you were replaced. She tied the apron around her waist and got to work. The morning rush at Pete's started at 6 and did not let up until past noon. Truck drivers, construction workers, nurses getting off the night shift at the hospital 3 blocks over, people who worked with their hands and their backs and came in smelling like sweat and effort. Sarah knew every regular by their order. Mr. Chen, the elderly man who fed the pigeons in the park every afternoon, always wanted 2 eggs over easy, rye toast, coffee black. He left a $20 tip once a month like clockwork, always on the first, always with a quiet nod that said he understood what it meant to count every penny. The construction crew from the site on 7th ordered enough food to feed a small army and left a mess that took Sarah 15 minutes to clean. They tipped $2 on a $60 tab and never seemed to notice her at all. By 9:30, Sarah's feet ached. By 11, she had burned her forearm on the coffee pot reaching for a refill. By 1 in the afternoon, when the lunch rush finally started to thin, she stood in the back hallway next to the supply closet and let herself feel it. The bone-deep exhaustion, the hollowness in her chest that no amount of food seemed to fill, the weight of a life that felt like running on a treadmill set just a little too fast, where one stumble would send her flying off the back into oblivion. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a text from Maya, her coworker and the closest thing she had to a best friend in the city. You look dead inside. Sarah glanced up. Maya stood at the end of the hallway, still wearing her own apron, dark hair pulled back in a bun that actually looked intentional. She had mascara on. Sarah could not remember the last time she had worn makeup to work. "I am fine," Sarah typed back, even though Maya was literally 10 feet away. "Liar, coffee after shift? I have a babysitting gig at 4. Of course you do." Maya walked closer, lowering her voice even though no one else was around. "When was the last time you did something for yourself?" "I bought generic brand cereal instead of the store brand last week. Felt like a queen." "Sarah, I am serious." Maya pulled out her phone, tapped a few times, then turned the screen to face her. It showed a dating app. Bright colors, smiling faces. A banner that read, "Find your perfect match for just $5. Absolutely not. It is $5. 1 cup of coffee, 1 hour of your life. What is the worst that could happen? I could waste $5 I do not have, and an hour I need for sleeping. Or you could meet someone who makes you remember what it feels like to be alive." Sarah looked at her friend, really looked at her. Maya was 28, 2 years older than Sarah, and she still had hope in her eyes, still believed that good things could happen to people who deserved them. Sarah used to believe that too, back before her father died, back before she understood that the world did not care about deserve. It cared about survive. "I will think about it," Sarah said, which was her standard response when she meant no, but did not want to argue. Maya was not fooled. She grabbed Sarah's phone right out of her hand, typed in the passcode, Sarah's father's birthday, because of course Maya knew it, and downloaded the app before Sarah could stop her. "There. I set up your profile. 26 Brooklyn, artist/waitress. Looking for simple coffee and real conversation. $5 budget, no games." "Maya, you cannot just decide this for me." "I can, and I did. Check your matches tonight. Just look, that is all I am asking." Maya squeezed her arm, the touch gentle. "You deserve more than this, more than double shifts and counting quarters. You deserve to laugh, to feel something other than tired." Sarah took her phone back. The app icon glared at her from the screen. A little heart, so optimistic, so naive. "Fine, I will look, but I'm not promising anything." "That is all I want." Maya grinned and headed back to the dining room, leaving Sarah alone with her buzzing phone and the uncomfortable feeling that her life was about to change, whether she wanted it to or not. The rest of her shift passed in the usual blur of orders and coffee refills. By 2:30, Sarah was clocking out, her tips for the day totaling $42.63. Not enough. Never enough. She stopped at the corner store on her way to her babysitting job and bought a protein bar and a bottle of water. $3.50. Math she did automatically now. Rent due, utilities overdue, student loans she had stopped opening letters about. Her mother needed $200 for a medical bill. The art program she had been accepted to 3 years ago cost $45,000 annually. She had laughed when she saw that number. Not a bitter laugh, just an acknowledgement of reality. People like her did not get to make art. They got to serve coffee to people who did. The babysitting gig was for the Hendersons, a nice couple in Park Slope with a 4-year-old who thought Sarah hung the moon. She played blocks. She read stories. She made dinner from the organic ingredients in their refrigerator that cost more than her weekly grocery budget. At 8 o'clock, Mrs. Henderson came home and paid her $50 cash, apologizing that it was not more. Sarah smiled and said it was perfect, because what else could she say? At 8:30, she was finally on the bus heading home. The city looked different at night, softer somehow, the harsh edges blurred by streetlights and the glow of apartment windows. Sarah pressed her forehead against the cool glass and watched Brooklyn slide past. Somewhere in the city, people were having dinner at restaurants where the wine cost more than her rent. Somewhere, people were not choosing between electricity and groceries. Somewhere, someone was living the life she had imagined for herself, back when she still believed in some days. Her apartment was dark and cold when she finally got home at 9:15. Sarah dropped her bag by the door, kicked off her shoes, and collapsed onto her bed without bothering to change. Her whole body ached, but it was the ache in her chest that hurt more, the one that whispered she was 26 and this was her life, and it would never be anything else. Her phone buzzed, a notification from the app Maya had downloaded. "You have 3 matches." Sarah stared at the ceiling. The crack that ran from corner to corner, something she had been meaning to report to her landlord for months. She should delete the app. She should go to sleep. She had another double shift tomorrow, but Maya's voice echoed in her head. You deserve to feel something other than tired. Against every instinct that told her this was stupid, Sarah opened the app. 3 profile pictures stared back at her. The first guy was shirtless in a gym mirror. Delete. The second had a fish. Why did they always have fish? Delete. The third was simple. A man, maybe mid-30s, sitting at a cafe with a book. No sunglasses, no flexing. Just a regular photo of a regular person. His profile name was Daniel, single dad, consultant. Looking for simple coffee, no pressure, $5 budget, same as her. Sarah tapped the message button before she could stop herself. Hi, your profile says simple coffee. Does that include simple conversation? Or are we sticking to awkward small talk about the weather? The response came faster than she expected. Weather small talk is extra. Costs at least $7. Sarah smiled despite herself. Deal breaker. I only have 5. Then I guess we will have to talk about something real. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m., there is a cafe on 8th. Corner cafe, nothing fancy. Sarah should have said no. Should have deleted the app and gone to sleep. Should have protected herself from the inevitable disappointment. But something in his message felt different. Not trying too hard, not expecting anything, just offering a simple coffee with a stranger. Okay, she typed. 7 p.m. I will be the one who looks like she has not slept in 3 years. I will be the one who promises not to be a serial killer. That is exactly what a serial killer would say. Fair point. Guess you will have to trust me. Trust. What a concept. Sarah set her phone down and stared at the ceiling until her eyes finally closed. Tomorrow she would regret this. Tomorrow she would remember why hope was dangerous. But tonight, for just a moment, she let herself imagine that maybe, something could be different. Across the city, in a penthouse apartment that overlooked Central Park, Michael Thornton woke at 6 a.m. to the sound of his son crying. He was out of bed before his brain fully processed the sound, bare feet hitting the cold hardwood floor, crossing the hall to the smaller bedroom where Lucas slept, surrounded by dinosaur posters and books about planets. The nightlight cast a soft glow across the boy's tear-streaked face. Michael sat on the edge of the bed and pulled his son into his arms. Hey, buddy. Hey, I am here. You are okay? Lucas hiccuped against his chest. I dreamed Mommy came back, but she did not remember who I was. Michael's heart cracked clean down the middle, same way it did every time Lucas mentioned Vanessa. His ex-wife had left 3 years ago, when Lucas was 3, and her presence in his life since then had been sporadic at best. Video calls on birthdays, a card at Christmas, the kind of mothering that required no actual presence, no actual sacrifice. Lucas barely remembered her face now, but he remembered the absence. Children always remembered the absence. That was just a dream. It was not real. But what if she does come back? What if she does not know me? Then we will help her remember. Michael smoothed his son's hair, still baby soft, still smelling like the lavender shampoo Elena bought in bulk. But I am here. I am always here. Okay? Okay. Lucas's breathing slowly steadied. Daddy, do you think I will ever have a mom who stays? The question gutted him. Michael held his son tighter and lied the way parents do when truth would hurt too much. I think the right person will come along when the time is right. Someone who sees how special you are and does not want to leave. Lucas pulled back just enough to look at him with those serious brown eyes that were far too old for a 6-year-old. You promise? Michael made a promise he had no right to make. I promise. Elena arrived at 7, letting herself in with the key she had held since Lucas was born. She was 63, a widow, and had more maternal instinct in her pinky than Vanessa had possessed in her entire body. She took one look at Michael's face and knew. Bad night? She asked quietly, already moving toward the kitchen to start breakfast. He had a nightmare about Vanessa. Elena's mouth tightened. That woman. She poured coffee without asking, the good stuff she brought from her apartment because she said the organic fair trade beans Michael bought tasted like dirt. What are you going to do when she decides she wants back in? Deal with it when it happens, not before. And the boy? Michael looked toward Lucas's room. The boy gets a childhood. Whatever I have to do to give him that. Elena handed him the coffee. You are a good father, Michael. Do not let her make you doubt that. He nodded, not trusting himself to speak. The coffee was perfect. Elena always knew exactly how much cream, how much sugar, exactly how he needed it. Sometimes he thought she was the only person in the world who actually saw him. Not Michael Thornton, CEO. Not Michael Thornton, millionaire. Just Michael. The man who still did not know how to make a grilled cheese without burning it. The man who read his son the same dinosaur book every night for 6 months because it made Lucas feel safe. The man who was so tired of being lonely he had done something stupid last night. He had downloaded a dating app. It was ridiculous. He was 36 years old, worth $850 million, and he was swiping through profiles like a college kid looking for a hookup. But he was not looking for a hookup. He was looking for someone who did not know his name. Someone who would see him in a coffee shop and not calculate his net worth. Someone who might talk to him like he was just a person. He had created a fake profile. Daniel, consultant, single dad. It felt like lying. It was lying. But it also felt like breathing for the first time in years. By 8:30, Michael was in the back of his town car heading downtown to Thornton Enterprises. The building was 40 stories of glass and steel. His name carved into the lobby in letters 3 feet tall. 2,000 employees. 12 offices across the country. A company he had built from a $50,000 loan and 16-hour days, and the kind of hunger that came from growing up middle class and knowing exactly what it felt like to want things you could not have. He had everything now, and it meant nothing. The car pulled up to the private entrance. His assistant was waiting with coffee he would not drink and a schedule that would consume the next 12 hours. Board meeting at 9, investor lunch at noon, conference calls, budget reviews, a gala on Friday that he was expected to attend with a date, someone appropriate, someone who understood the game. He had said no. His board had pushed back. He had said no again. They would push again. It never ended. The morning disappeared into spreadsheets and presentations. Michael sat in meetings and made decisions that affected thousands of lives and felt absolutely nothing. At 1:15, his business partner James cornered him outside the conference room. "You need to be at the gala Friday. The optics matter. I will be there. Alone." "Michael, you have been alone for 3 years. It is starting to look weird. It is starting to look like I do not perform my personal life for strangers. This is business. Everything is business." James lowered his voice. "There are rumors you are difficult to work with, unstable. They see you alone at every event and they think you are isolated, vulnerable. Let them think what they want." James studied him. "You are miserable. You know that, right?" Michael did not answer because what could he say? "Yes, I am miserable. Yes, I have more money than I will ever spend, and I would trade it all for one conversation that did not feel like a negotiation. Yes, I am so tired of being Michael Thornton that I created a fake profile on a dating app just to remember what it feels like to be nobody." Instead, he said, "I have calls," and walked away. At 6:30, Michael told his driver to drop him at a random corner in Brooklyn. He changed in the car, swapping his suit for jeans and a plain gray sweater he had bought online because he had not been inside a regular store in years. No watch, no cufflinks, nothing that screamed money. He walked 3 blocks to the corner café, a place he had chosen specifically because it was cheap and small, and the kind of place no one from his world would ever go. She would not show up. He was sure of it. He had been too forward in his messages, too casual, too something. She would realize this was a mistake, and he would sit here alone with his coffee and his fake name, and he would deserve it. But then the door opened, and there she was. Sarah pushed through the door of the cafe at 6:58, 2 minutes early, because being late felt like one more failure she could not afford. The place smelled like roasted coffee and cinnamon, warm and inviting in a way that made her desperately wish she could afford to come here more often. Small tables, mismatched chairs, a chalkboard menu that listed lattes for $6 and muffins for $4.50. The kind of place that would have been charming if she had money to appreciate charm. She scanned the room, looking for someone who might be Daniel. Her eyes landed on a man sitting by the window. Tall, even sitting down. Dark hair that looked like he had run his fingers through it a few times. Gray sweater, jeans, a book in his hands. No phone on the table. No flashy watch. Nothing that screamed trying too hard. He looked up as if he felt her staring, and their eyes met across the room. He had kind eyes. That was the first thing she noticed. kind eyes and a face that looked tired, but not defeated. A face that suggested he knew what it was like to smile, but had not done it in a while. Sarah walked over before she could talk herself out of it. "Hi, are you Daniel?" The man looked at her for exactly 3 seconds too long. Long enough that she started to panic. Long enough that she thought maybe she had approached the wrong person. Then he set his book down carefully, deliberately, and said, "I am not sure I am who you think I am. But please, sit down." His voice was calm, deep, the kind of voice that made you feel like he actually meant what he said. Sarah pulled out the chair across from him and sat, clutching her bag in her lap like a shield. "Blind dates are ridiculous, right?" she said, forcing a laugh. $5 and they send you to meet a complete stranger. Honestly, if you turn out to be a serial killer, at least it was a cheap mistake. The corner of his mouth lifted. Not quite a smile, but keen. "I promise you, I am not a serial killer." Something about the way he said it, so dry and matter-of-fact, made her grin despite herself. That is exactly what a serial killer would say. "Fair point. You will just have to trust your instincts." "My instincts told me to stay home and sleep, and yet here you are." "Here I am." They ordered coffee, $5.47 each. Sarah paid for hers before he could offer, sliding the bills across the counter with the kind of finality that said this was not negotiable. When they sat back down, cups steaming between them, she expected awkward small talk. Expected him to ask what she did for a living, and then lose interest when she said waitress. Expected him to check his phone. Expected him to have somewhere else to be. Instead, he asked, "What do you actually want, Sarah?" She blinked. "What? If life stopped demanding so much from you, if you could do anything, what would it be?" No one had asked her that in years. Maybe ever. Most people asked what she did, not what she wanted. As if those were the same thing, as if anyone got to choose. "I would draw," she heard herself say. The honesty surprised her. "I would paint, design things, maybe illustrate books for children." She laughed, bitter. "But art does not pay rent. So instead, I refill coffee cups and count tips and pretend that is enough." He did not look at her with pity. That was the second thing she noticed. He looked at her with interest. "You sound like you are good at it. Do you have a sketchbook with you?" She did. She always did. It was battered and worn, pages filled with sketches she drew between shifts at the diner. Moments no one else noticed. The elderly couple who still held hands after 60 years. The little girl who shared her ice cream with a stray dog. The exhausted nurse who fell asleep on the subway still wearing her scrubs. Sarah slid the sketchbook across the table, suddenly self-conscious. "They are just doodles. Nothing special." He opened it carefully, like it was something precious, like it mattered. He turned each page slowly, studying each sketch with a focus that made her chest tight. When he finally looked up, his expression had shifted into something she could not quite read. "These are remarkable," he said quietly. "You see people as they are, not as they pretend to be." Heat flooded her cheeks. She was not used to compliments that felt real. Most people said nice things because they were supposed to, not because they meant them. "Thank you. Do you sell these?" She laughed. Who would buy drawings from a waitress? Someone who recognizes talent when they see it. The conversation flowed after that. Easy in a way Sarah had not expected. He asked about her life and actually listened to the answers. Asked follow-up questions. Remembered details she mentioned in passing. She found herself telling him about her father, about the heart attack at 52, about how she had sworn she would never need anyone the way her mother had needed him, how that promise had turned into armor she could not take off. He told her about his son, about Lucas, 6 years old, obsessed with dinosaurs and afraid of the dark, about reading the same bedtime story every night for 6 months because it made Lucas feel safe, about the guilt that came with being a single parent, the constant fear that you were failing in ways you could not even see yet. "I thought this was supposed to be a cheap date," Sarah said, surprised to find herself smiling, not a therapy session. Maybe they are the same thing, cheap and honest. She liked that, liked him, liked the way he looked at her like she was worth looking at. It had been so long since she felt seen by anyone other than Maya or Pete or her mother. So long since she felt like anything other than invisible. When the server came by to clear their empty cups, Sarah reached for the check instinctively. "I have it. This was my idea anyway. $5 date." He placed his hand over the check before she could grab it, not touching her hand, but close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. Let me. No, I insist, we agreed. Then let us keep it simple. He pulled out a $5 bill and placed it next to hers. We split it, fair and square. The compromise surprised her. Most men either fought to pay or expected her to cover it. This felt different, equal. She nodded, almost impressed. Outside, the evening air had cooled. March in New York meant you never knew if you would need a coat or just a sweater. Sarah adjusted her scarf, suddenly unsure what came next. Did they say goodbye here? Did she give him her number? Did she want to give him her number? Do you live far? He asked. A few blocks. I usually take the bus. Then let me walk you. It was not a question, but it was not a demand either, just a quiet assurance. She hesitated, then agreed. They walked side by side through Brooklyn as the streetlights flickered on one by one. Sarah kept waiting for him to fill the silence with nervous chatter, but he seemed comfortable just being. They passed a bookstore with a window display of art supplies. Professional brushes, canvas, watercolor sets. Things she had looked at 100 times and could never justify buying. She stopped, just for a moment, eyes tracing over the display like a kid looking at toys she could not have. You should buy them, he said quietly. She shook her head. They cost more than my grocery budget for the week. He did not push, just nodded like he understood. But she could feel him watching her, could feel something shift in the air between them. When they reached her building, she turned to face him. Thank you. For tonight. I know it was not much, but I needed to laugh. It was more than much. His voice was soft but certain. It was real. For a moment, something hung in the air between them. Something fragile and new and terrifying. She wanted to ask why a man like him, who carried himself with that kind of quiet confidence, would be alone in a coffee shop on a Tuesday night. Wanted to ask if he was lonely too. Wanted to ask a lot of things. Instead, she smiled and said goodnight and hurried up the worn steps of her building before she could do something stupid like invite him up. Michael watched her disappear through the cracked glass door. Watched the light in what he assumed was her window flicker on a moment later. He stood there longer than he should have, trying to memorize the feeling of the last 2 hours. The feeling of being Daniel, of being nobody, of being seen. His phone buzzed in his pocket. 23 missed calls, emails piling up, the world he had walked away from for one evening, demanding his return. He should call his driver, should get back to the penthouse, should remember who he actually was. Instead, he walked, block after block through Brooklyn, past bodegas and laundromats and bars where real people drank cheap beer and told the truth. He had lied to her, not about his feelings, not about Lucas, but about everything else. And with every step, the weight of that lie got heavier. By the time he made it home, Lucas was asleep and Elena was reading in the living room. She looked up when he came in, took one look at his face and smiled. You met someone, maybe. Is she kind? Michael thought about Sarah's tired eyes and genuine smile, about the way she drew beauty in ordinary moments, about the way she had insisted on splitting the check because equality mattered more than his wallet. Yes, she is kind. Then do not screw it up. Too late for that. I already lied to her. Elena set down her book. Then tell her the truth, before it is too late. Michael nodded, but they both knew he would not. Not yet. Not when he finally had something real, even if it was built on a foundation of deception. He would tell her soon, just not yet. Sarah lay in bed that night, staring at the crack in her ceiling, replaying every moment of the evening. The way Daniel had listened, the way he had looked at her sketches like they mattered, the way he had split the check without making it about money or pride or anything other than fairness. She picked up her phone and opened their message thread, typed out, "Thank you for tonight," then deleted it, typed it again, deleted it again, finally settled on, "Your son is lucky to have you." His response came a minute later. "I think I am the lucky one. Would you like to meet him?" Her heart did something complicated in her chest. Men did not introduce their children to random women they met on dating apps. Not after one coffee. Not unless this meant something. She should say no. Should protect herself from the inevitable hurt. should remember that good things did not happen to people like her. She typed back, I would like that. Saturday? There is a park near Riverside. Lucas loves the playground. Saturday works. Sarah set her phone down and pressed her hands to her face. What was she doing? This was a man she had met once, a man she knew nothing about except that he had a son and kind eyes, and made her feel less alone for 2 hours. This was dangerous. This was stupid. This was exactly the kind of hope that would destroy her when it inevitably fell apart. But Maya's voice echoed in her head. You deserve to feel something other than tired. And for the first time in 3 years, Sarah felt something. She felt possibility. She felt like maybe, just maybe, the universe had not completely forgotten about her. She fell asleep with a smile on her face, unaware that across the city, a man who had lied about his name was falling asleep thinking about her too. Unaware that in 3 days, she would meet a 6-year-old boy who would change her life. Unaware that the watch on Daniel's wrist, barely visible in the dim light of the café, bore a logo she would soon recognize. A logo that would unravel everything. But tonight, she did not know any of that. Tonight, she just knew that for $5 in 2 hours, she had felt alive, and that was enough. Saturday arrived with the kind of spring sunshine that made New York almost forgivable. Sarah woke early, unusual for her day off, and spent 20 minutes staring at her closet trying to decide what you wore to meet a 6-year-old. She settled on jeans and a soft blue sweater. Nothing fancy. Nothing that tried too hard. She stopped at a small toy store on her way to the park, the kind of place that smelled like childhood and sold things that were not made of plastic. She found a small dinosaur, a T-Rex, detailed and realistic. $8. A significant chunk of her spending money for the week, but something about it felt important. First impressions mattered, even with children. Especially with children. Riverside Park stretched along the Hudson, green and alive with families enjoying the warm afternoon. Sarah arrived 15 minutes early, nervous energy making it impossible to sit still. She walked past the playground once, twice, watching children climb and swing and scream with the kind of joy that came from not knowing yet how hard life could be. Then she saw them. Michael, kneeling in the grass next to a small boy with tousled brown hair and serious eyes. He was helping the boy tie his shoelaces, patient and gentle, his hands guiding the small fingers through the loops. The boy was concentrating hard, tongue poking out the corner of his mouth in determination. It was the kind of moment that deserved to be drawn, the kind of moment Sarah committed to memory so she could sketch it later. She stood there watching, not ready to interrupt, and something in her chest expanded. This was who he was when no one was performing. This was real. This was the kind of father who was present, who knelt in the grass, who let his son take as long as he needed to learn something new. Hi, she said finally, stepping closer. Her voice came out softer than she intended. Michael looked up and his whole face changed. Lighter somehow, like her presence was a good thing. Sarah. He stood, brushing grass from his knees. This is Lucas. The boy looked at her shyly, those brown eyes taking her in with the kind of careful assessment that children do when meeting strangers who might become important. He was small for 6, or maybe that was just how all children looked when you did not spend much time around them. Delicate, breakable, so much trust placed in a world that did not always deserve it. Sarah crouched down to his level, making herself smaller, less threatening. Hi, Lucas. I heard you like dinosaurs. He nodded, still uncertain. She pulled the toy from her bag, offered it carefully. I saw this and thought of you. It is a T-Rex. They were actually not as big as movies make them look, but they were still pretty scary. Lucas's eyes went wide. He took the dinosaur with reverence, turning it over in his small hands. This is my favorite kind. How did you know? Sarah glanced up at Michael, who was watching them with an expression she could not quite read. Something tender. Something that made her throat tight. Lucky guess, she said. That was all it took. Whatever wall Lucas had built against her crumbled in an instant. He grabbed her hand, his palm warm and slightly sticky, and pulled her toward the playground. Come on, I will show you my favorite spot. I can see the whole river from the top of the slide. Michael followed behind them, hands in his pockets, and Sarah could feel his smile even without looking back. She let Lucas lead her to the playground, let him chatter about dinosaurs and space and his teacher, who did not like him very much, but that was okay because he did not like her either. She listened the way adults should listen to children, but rarely did, actually listened, asked questions, treated his interests like they mattered. They spent the afternoon climbing and sliding and spinning until Sarah was dizzy, and Lucas was laughing so hard he got the hiccups. Michael pushed Lucas on the swings, while Sarah sat on a bench and sketched them, quick lines capturing movement and joy, and the way Michael's shoulders relaxed when his son was happy. She did not show them the drawing. Some things were just for her. When Lucas finally wore himself out, they sat together on the grass, and he taught Sarah about different types of dinosaurs. Sarah taught him how to draw them, simple shapes that became creatures, and his face lit up like she had performed actual magic. Michael sat beside them, quiet but present, and Sarah was aware of him in every cell of her body. The way he smelled like cedar and something clean. The way his voice dropped when he spoke to Lucas. The way he looked at her when he thought she was not paying attention. As the sun started to set, painting the Hudson in shades of gold and pink, Lucas leaned against Sarah's side, exhausted. "Sarah," he said quietly, "do you draw other things? Not just dinosaurs?" "I draw lots of things. People mostly, moments that feel important. Can you draw me and Daddy?" She glanced at Michael, who nodded. "I already did. This afternoon. Want to see?" She flipped back through her sketchbook to the page where she had captured them on the swings. Lucas, mid-flight, joy written across his small face. Michael behind him, hands on the chains, smiling in a way that suggested he had forgotten, just for a moment, whatever weight he usually carried. Lucas stared at it for a long moment. "Can I keep it?" Sarah carefully tore the page from her book and handed it to him. "It is yours." Lucas held it like treasure. "Thank you." He looked up at her with those serious eyes. "Are you going to be Daddy's friend now?" The question hung in the air, innocent and loaded at the same time. Sarah did not know how to answer. Wanted to say yes. Wanted to protect herself by saying maybe. Settled on, "I would like to be." "Good," Lucas nodded, satisfied. "Daddy does not have enough friends." Michael cleared his throat. "Okay, buddy, I think Sarah has heard enough embarrassing truths for one day." But Sarah was looking at Michael, seeing something shift behind his eyes. Vulnerability, loneliness, the same thing she felt every day but had learned to hide better. "You do not have enough friends," she repeated. "Neither do I." "Then I guess we are both lucky we found each other." They walked back through the park as the light faded, Lucas between them, holding both their hands. He swung between them, counting to 3, and they lifted him up and over puddles that did not exist. His laughter echoed across the park, pure and unself-conscious, the sound of a child who felt safe. When they reached this parking area, Sarah saw the car for the first time. It was not flashy, not a sports car or anything obviously expensive, just a black sedan, clean and new. But it was new, this year's model. She recognized the lines from advertisements she had seen in subway stations, the kind of car that started at $40,000, maybe more. Something small shifted in her chest, a whisper of unease. "Thank you for today," Michael said, his hand resting briefly on her shoulder. Lucas has not smiled like that in a long time. "Thank you for sharing him with me. Can I see you again?" "Yes." Lucas hugged her goodbye, his small arms tight around her waist. "Come back soon, okay?" "I will, buddy, I promise." She watched them drive away, that clean new car disappearing into traffic, and the unease grew a little louder. Consultants drove decent cars, right? That did not mean anything, except his clothes, now that she thought about it. The gray sweater had looked plain, but the fabric had been soft in a way cheap cotton never was. And his shoes. She had not paid much attention at the cafe, but she remembered now. Leather. Well made. The kind that lasted years because they cost enough to be worth taking care of. Sarah pulled out her phone and opened the sketch she had done, zoomed in on Michael's wrist where the sleeve had pulled back. There, just visible. A watch. The face was classic, elegant, with a logo she could not quite make out in her quick drawing, but something about it nagged at her. She had seen that logo before. Somewhere. She pushed the thought away. She was being paranoid. He was a consultant. He made decent money. That did not make him rich. That did not make him a liar. She was just not used to anyone in her life having anything nice. That was her damage, not his. But that night, as she lay in bed scrolling mindlessly through her phone, an advertisement popped up. Luxury watches. And there it was, the logo. Patek Philippe. She clicked through, curiosity winning over common sense. The watches started at $20,000. $20,000. For a watch, the kind of money that would change her life, the kind of money that would pay her rent for a year, the kind of money that people with regular consulting jobs did not spend on accessories. Her heart started beating faster. She Googled the logo again, looking at image after image, comparing them to the sketch she had made. It matched. She was almost certain it matched. But she could be wrong. Sketches were not photographs. She could have gotten the details confused. She wanted to be wrong, needed to be wrong, because if she was right, it meant Daniel had lied about more than she realized. It meant he was not who he said he was. It meant everything about their connection. Every moment that had felt real was built on a foundation of deception. Sarah closed her eyes and tried to breathe through the panic rising in her chest. She was overreacting. One expensive watch did not mean anything. Maybe it was a family heirloom. Maybe it was a gift. Maybe it was fake. There were logical explanations that did not involve him being someone completely different from who he claimed. She would ask him next time, casually, "Hey, nice watch, where did you get it?" And he would laugh and explain, and she would feel stupid for doubting him. That was what would happen. That had to be what would happen. Because the alternative was that she had started to hope again, started to believe that maybe someone could see her and choose her. And if that turned out to be a lie, she did not know if she could survive it. Her phone buzzed with the text. "Michael, thank you for today. Lucas has not stopped talking about you." "Neither have I." She stared at the message for a long time before responding. "He is wonderful. You are raising him right." "I'm trying. Same time next week?" Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. She should say no, should protect herself, should demand answers before this went any further. But the thought of not seeing Lucas again, not seeing the way Michael's eyes crinkled when he smiled, not feeling like she mattered to someone, made her chest ache. "Yes," she typed, "next week." She set the phone down and pulled out her sketchbook. Drew the watch from memory, every detail she could recall. The elegant hands, the classic face, the logo that might mean nothing or might mean everything. Tomorrow she would go to the jewelry store on Fifth Avenue, the one with the security guard and the windows full of things she would never own. She would look at the watches in person, compare them to her drawing, confirm or deny, and then she would decide what to do with the truth. But tonight, she let herself have this. Let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she had found something real, even if reality was waiting just around the corner to prove her wrong. For 3 perfect weeks, Sarah Mitchell let herself believe in fairy tales. But fairy tales do not exist in Brooklyn diners at 5 in the morning. And the man she was falling for had built his entire life on a lie she was about to uncover. The jewelry store on Fifth Avenue had a security guard who looked at Sarah like she was about to steal something. She probably looked like she might. Her coat was 3 years old, fraying at the cuffs. Her boots had a crack in the leather she had tried to hide with black marker. But she walked in anyway, chin up, shoulders back, because poverty did not mean she had to apologize for existing. The watches sat behind glass like museum pieces. Each one had a little card with a price that made her stomach turn. 20,000, 35,000, 68,000 for a rose gold model with a leather band. She stood there staring at the Patek Philippe display, comparing the elegant faces and distinctive logos to the sketch she had folded in her pocket, the one she had drawn from memory of the watch on Daniel's wrist. It matched. Every detail. The Roman numerals, the slim second hand, the logo that looked like a cross between a flower and a compass. It was not close. It was exact. "Can I help you?" The salesman appeared at her elbow. His suit probably worth more than her entire year's rent. His smile was professional, but his eyes were doing math, calculating whether she was worth his time. "Just looking." Sarah's voice came out steadier than she felt. "These are quite special pieces. Investment quality. Do you have a specific model in mind?" She wanted to ask how someone afforded a watch that cost as much as a car. Wanted to ask if normal people, People with consulting jobs bought these, but the salesman was already turning away, drawn to a couple in matching cashmere coats who looked like they belonged there. Sarah left quietly, the bell above the door marking her exit like a period at the end of a sentence she had not wanted to finish. Outside, the city moved around her in its usual chaos. Taxis honked, tourists took selfies. Someone was selling roasted nuts from a cart, the smell mixing with exhaust and the particular scent of New York in early spring. Sarah stood on the corner trying to convince herself there were explanations. Maybe it was a gift. Maybe it was inherited. Maybe it was a really good fake. Maybe she was wrong about what she had seen. But she was not wrong, and she knew it. Her phone buzzed, a text from Daniel. Correction, from whoever he really was. Dinner tonight? Lucas has been asking about you all week. 3 weeks had passed since that first coffee. 3 weeks of slowly building something that felt dangerously close to real. They had fallen into a pattern. Coffee on Tuesday evenings, the park with Lucas on Saturdays, one dinner at a small Italian place where he had insisted on paying, and she had let him because fighting over every check was exhausting. He texted her good morning, asked about her shifts at the diner, sent her photos of Lucas's latest drawings, which were getting better under her guidance. She had started to relax, started to believe that maybe this time, maybe this person would be different. Now she stared at his message and felt the foundation cracking beneath her feet. She texted back, "Can't tonight, double shift." The lie came easily, too easily. But she needed time to think, needed to figure out what she was going to do with the knowledge burning a hole in her chest. Maya cornered her during the lunch rush at Pete's, pulling her into the back hallway near the supply closet. "You have been weird for 3 days. What is going on?" "Nothing, I'm fine." "You are a terrible liar." Maya crossed her arms. "Is it the guy, Daniel?" Sarah leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. "I think he has been lying to me." "About what?" "About everything. Who he is, what he does, I do not know. But something is wrong." "Did he hurt you?" "No, not like that." Sarah pulled out her phone, showed Maya the sketch. "This is his watch. I saw it in a store. It costs more than I make in a year. Maybe it is fake." "It is not fake. Maybe he is in debt. Some people buy things they cannot afford." Sarah shook her head. "It is not just the watch. It is everything. The car, the clothes, the way people look at him like he is someone important. Like he is someone I should recognize." Maya studied her face. "Are you going to ask him?" "I do not know. Part of me does not want to know the truth. Part of me just wants to keep pretending everything is fine." "And the other part?" "The other part knows I am lying to myself." Sarah closed her eyes. "I am falling for him, Maya, for him and for Lucas. And if this is all fake, if he has been playing some kind of game with me, I do not know if I can come back from that." "Then ask him, tonight. Do not let this sit and rot." But Sarah did not ask him that night because she worked a double shift that was not a lie after all. Pete had called in sick, and she had volunteered to cover because she needed the money and needed the distraction. She did not ask him the next night either, when he showed up at the diner at closing time with coffee from the good place down the street, the kind that cost $7 and tasted like what coffee was supposed to taste like when it was not Pete's industrial sludge. "I thought you could use this," he said, setting the cup in front of her. "You have been distant. I wanted to make sure you were okay." "Just tired. Work has been busy." He looked at her like he could see through the lie but was choosing not to call her on it. "Lucas misses you." He asked if you were mad at him. The guilt hit like a punch. "I am not mad at him. Tell him I will see him Saturday, same time." "What about you? Do I get to see you before Saturday?" Sarah forced a smile. "Let me check my schedule." He reached across the table and took her hand. His palm was warm, steady, the kind of touch that promised safety. "Sarah, if something is wrong, you can tell me." She almost did. Almost asked him right there, surrounded by empty tables and the smell of old coffee. Almost demanded the truth. But Pete was watching from behind the counter, and the words stuck in her throat, and she squeezed his hand instead. "I know, I am just tired. That is all." He left after that. She watched him walk to his car, that same black sedan that was too nice for a consultant, and felt the lie growing bigger between them. A living thing that would eventually consume everything good they were building. Saturday arrived with rain, the kind that fell in sheets and turned the city gray. Sarah almost canceled, almost texted that she was sick or had to work or any of a dozen excuses that would buy her more time. But then she thought about Lucas waiting at the park in his dinosaur raincoat, thought about disappointing him, and she could not do it. The park was empty except for them. Lucas ran through puddles in his bright yellow boots, shrieking with laughter every time water splashed up. Michael held an umbrella over Sarah, even though it meant he was getting soaked. They did not talk about anything important. Just watched Lucas play and made small talk about the weather and his latest obsession with space instead of dinosaurs. Normal conversation. Easy conversation. The kind that made Sarah feel like she was losing her mind because how could something feel this right when it was built on lies? Lucas crashed into her legs, soaking wet and grinning. Sarah, can you come to my school thing next Friday? We are doing presentations about our families and I want to show your drawings. Michael tensed beside her. She felt it, the shift in his posture. Lucas, Sarah is busy with work. But I already told Miss Peterson about her. Lucas looked up with those big brown eyes that made it impossible to say no. Please? Sarah glanced at Michael. His face was carefully blank, but something lurked behind his eyes. Fear, maybe. Or guilt. What kind of school thing? She asked. Family Day. We bring people who are important to us and talk about them. Important to us. The word settled over Sarah like a weight. She was important to this child, this sweet 6-year-old who had somehow worked his way into her heart in 3 weeks. And she was about to ruin it by demanding answers from his father. I will try, buddy, but I might have to work. Okay. Lucas hugged her waist and ran back to the puddles. Michael waited until Lucas was out of earshot. You do not have to come. I know it is a lot to ask. It is not about whether I want to. Sarah kept her eyes on Lucas. It is about whether I should. What does that mean? It means I am not his parent. I am just someone his dad is dating. If this does not work out, it will hurt him. And if it does work out, she finally looked at him. Does it work out for people like us? He flinched like she had hit him. People like us. You know what I mean, we are from different worlds. Are we? He moved closer, his voice dropping. Because I thought we were just two people trying to figure out how to be happy. Sarah wanted to ask him then. Wanted to demand he tell her the truth about who he was and what he wanted and why he had chosen her of all people. But Lucas was calling for them to watch him jump off a rock. And the moment passed. It always passed. That night, Michael offered to drive her home. The rain had not let up, and she was soaked through despite the umbrella. She agreed because turning down a ride in a downpour seemed stubborn even for her. They dropped Lucas at home first. Sarah waited in the car while Michael ran the boy inside, watching through the rain-streaked window as they disappeared into a building she could only partially see. A doorman held the door. A doorman. Consultants did not live in buildings with doormen. When Michael returned, his hair was plastered to his head and his shirt was soaked. He cranked up the heat without asking and pulled into traffic. They drove in silence for several blocks. Sarah watched the wipers beat against the windshield, hypnotic and steady, and tried to find the courage to speak. The call came before she could. The car's Bluetooth system lit up with an incoming call. A name flashed across the screen, James Reynolds. Michael's hand moved toward the decline button, but he was not fast enough. The system auto-answered, some setting he must have forgotten to turn off, and a male voice filled the car. Mr. Thornton, the board meeting is confirmed for tomorrow at 9 a.m. The investors are expecting your presentation on the Richardson acquisition. Should I have the car pick you up at your residence, or will you be at the office? Everything stopped. The rain, the traffic, Sarah's heartbeat. The whole world narrowed down to those words. Mr. Thornton, board meeting, investors, the car. Michael's hands tightened on the steering wheel until his knuckles went white. He jabbed at the screen, ending the call, but the damage was already done. The silence that followed was louder than any explanation could be. Sarah turned to look at him, really look at him, saw the tension in his jaw, the guilt written across every feature. Mr. Thornton? He did not answer, just pulled over to the curb, put the car in park, and sat there with the engine running and the rain drumming on the roof like bullets. Who are you? Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. Weaker. My name is Michael Thornton. The name meant nothing to her. Should it? She waited for more, for an explanation that would make this make sense. I run a company. He stared straight ahead, not meeting her eyes. It is bigger than I made it sound. Bigger how? Does it matter? Yes, it matters. Sarah felt something cold spreading through her chest, the kind of cold that came right before pain. Board meetings, investors, a car service. That is not a small company. No, it is not small. So you lied about your job, about your name. She laughed, but it sounded broken. What else did you lie about? Nothing. Everything about Lucas was true. Everything I told you about myself as a person was true. Except the tiny detail of who you actually are. I wanted you to see me, not my bank account, not my company, just me. So you lied. Yes. He finally turned to face her, and she saw it then. The fear, the desperation, the knowledge that he had just destroyed something precious. I lied, and I am sorry. But Sarah, please, everything else was real. She shook her head, tears burning behind her eyes. How am I supposed to know what is real? You watched me count quarters for the bus. You let me split a $5 check with you. You sat in my apartment with the leak and the broken furniture, and you said nothing. 'Cause none of that mattered. It mattered to me. Her voice broke. It mattered because I thought we were the same. I thought you understood what it was like to struggle, to choose between paying rent and buying groceries, to have dreams you cannot afford. I do understand. No, you do not. You cannot. Not if you have a driver and a doorman and enough money to fix every problem with a checkbook. Money does not fix loneliness, but it sure as hell makes it easier to bear. Sarah wiped at her eyes angrily. Take me home. Sarah, please let me explain. There is nothing to explain. You lied. That is it. That is all I need to know. She reached for the door handle. His hand shot out, not touching her but hovering near her arm. Do not walk, not in this rain. Let me at least get you home safe. She wanted to walk anyway, wanted to slam the door and disappear into the storm and pretend this night had never happened. But it was pouring and she was already soaked, and some part of her was still stupid enough to believe he cared about getting her home safe. Fine, but then I do not want to see you again. The drive to her apartment took 7 minutes. 7 minutes of silence so thick she could barely breathe through it. When he pulled up to her building, she was out of the car before he could put it in park. She did not look back, did not give him a chance to say anything else, just ran through the rain and up the stairs and into her apartment, where she locked the door and slid down to the floor and finally let herself fall apart. Her phone started buzzing before she had even caught her breath. Michael calling. She declined. He called again. Declined. A text appeared. Please, let me explain. Just give me a chance to make this right. She blocked his number. Another text came through, this time from an unknown number. It is me. I know you blocked me. I understand. But please, just read this. I never meant to hurt you. I know that is not enough. I know sorry does not fix lying. But I need you to understand why I did it. My whole life, people see the money first. They see Michael Thornton, CEO. They see dollar signs and opportunities and what I can do for them. No one sees me. No one asks what I want or what makes me laugh or what keeps me up at night. Until you. You asked me what I wanted. You showed me your drawings like they were treasures. You split a $5 check because equality mattered. You saw me, Sarah. Just me. And I was so desperate to keep that feeling that I lied. I told myself it was just one coffee, just one date, that I would tell you the truth after. But then it became 2 dates and 3, and Lucas met you and you made him smile again. And I was buried so deep in the lie, I did not know how to dig myself out without losing you. I know I do not deserve forgiveness. I know I hurt you. But I needed you to know that nothing else was a lie. Every moment we spent together, every conversation, every feeling, that was real. You were not my charity case. You were my salvation. I am sorry. I am so, so sorry. Sarah read it 3 times. Then she deleted it, blocked that number too, turned off her phone completely, and sat in the dark of her apartment, listening to the rain and hating herself for the part of her that wanted to forgive him. The part that understood loneliness. The part that remembered how it felt when he looked at her like she mattered. Maya showed up an hour later, soaked through and holding a bottle of cheap wine. She did not ask how she knew. Probably Pete had mentioned Sarah leaving early, looking upset. Maya was good at reading between lines. What happened? Sarah told her. Everything. The phone call, the name she did not recognize, the lies stacked on lies. Maya listened without interrupting. pouring wine into mismatched mugs because Sarah did not own actual wine glasses. "So what are you going to do?" Maya asked when Sarah finally ran out of words. "I do not know." Sarah stared into her mug. "Part of me wants to never see him again. Part of me wants to demand answers. Part of me just wants to pretend this never happened." "What does your gut say?" "My gut says I should have known better than to trust someone in the first place." Maya reached across the small space between them and took Sarah's hand. "You deserve love. You know that, right? You deserve someone who sees you and chooses you." But Sarah shook her head. "People like me do not get fairy tale endings. We get exactly what we can afford. And apparently, I cannot even afford the truth." They finished the wine in silence. Maya crashed on Sarah's couch, too drunk to safely navigate the subway. Sarah lay in bed staring at the ceiling crack and trying not to think about Lucas asking where she had gone, trying not to imagine his small face when his father explained that Sarah was not coming back, trying not to feel like she was the one abandoning him when she was just protecting herself. Morning came too early and too bright. Sarah's head pounded from crying and cheap wine. She had a shift at Pete's in an hour. She dragged herself out of bed, past Maya snoring on the couch, and into the shower where the water was lukewarm at best. Her phone was still off. She was not ready to turn it on yet, was not ready to see how many times he had tried to contact her, was not ready to face the reality of what she had lost. The diner was busy. Sunday morning rush, church crowd and families and hungover college kids trying to soak up last night's bad decisions with Pete's greasy hash browns. Sarah moved through her shift on autopilot, took orders, poured coffee, smiled when appropriate, died a little inside every time she had a free moment to remember. It was Pete who pulled her aside during the mid-morning lull. "You got reporters outside." "What?" "Reporters with cameras, asking for you by name." Sarah's stomach dropped. "That does not make sense. Why would reporters want to talk to me?" Pete shrugged. "You tell me. But they are out there, 3 of them. Showed me a picture, asked if you worked here." "What kind of picture?" He pulled out his phone, showed her a website, a gossip blog, the kind that fed on celebrity drama and society scandals. And there, right on the front page, was a photograph of her and Michael and Lucas at the park. Someone had taken it weeks ago, probably with a phone, the quality grainy but clear enough. Michael was kneeling, helping Lucas with his shoelaces. Sarah stood beside them, smiling down at the boy. It looked like a family portrait. It looked like something private that should never have been made public. The headline screamed in bold letters: "Reclusive billionaire Michael Thornton spotted with mystery woman. Who is she?" Billionaire. The word punched through her chest. Not millionaire. Billionaire. Sarah scrolled down, numb. The article was full of speculation. Mystery woman, unidentified companion. Seen multiple times with Thornton and his 6-year-old son. Sources say Thornton has been notoriously private since his divorce 3 years ago. This is the first woman he has been seen with publicly. The comment section was worse. Hundreds of comments, most of them vicious. "Gold digger alert. She is clearly after his money. Look at her clothes. Obvious social climber. What is a billionaire doing with someone so ordinary? Poor kid is going to have another woman abandon him when she gets bored. She is nobody. He will get tired of her soon enough." Sarah could not breathe, could not think, could not process the fact that her face, her private life, her relationship with a man she had thought was normal, was now public entertainment for strangers. "Sarah," Pete's voice cut through the fog, "what do you want me to do?" She looked up at him. This man who had given her a job when she desperately needed one, who grumbled about everything but always made sure she got her tips, who had probably known she was struggling long before she admitted it to anyone. "Get rid of them, please. I cannot deal with this right now." Pete nodded, grabbed his baseball bat from behind the counter, the one he kept for emergencies, and headed for the door. Sarah did not watch, just went to the back office and sat down and tried to figure out how her life had imploded so completely in less than 24 hours. Her phone. She had turned it off last night, but curiosity was a disease, and she was infected. She powered it on and watched the notifications flood in. 47 missed calls from Michael, 32 from unknown numbers, text messages from people she had not spoken to in years, Facebook friend requests from strangers, Instagram followers jumping from 200 to 15,000 overnight, DMs so many she could not count them. Half were marriage proposals from men who saw her as a ticket to Thornton's wealth. Half were death threats from people who thought she did not deserve to breathe the same air as him. And then, the call she had been dreading. Unknown number, but she knew. Somehow she knew. She answered. "Sarah Mitchell?" The voice was female, professional, cold. "Who is this?" "My name is Vanessa Hartley. I am Michael's ex-wife. We need to talk." Sarah should have hung up, should have blocked the number and pretended this call never happened. But something in the woman's voice made her pause. Not anger, something else, something that sounded almost like concern. "What do you want?" "Not over the phone." "Can we meet?" "There is a coffee shop on 10th. Neutral ground, 1 hour." "Why would I meet you?" "Because I am trying to save you from the mistake I made." Vanessa's voice softened. "Please, just one conversation. Then you can decide what you want to do." Sarah agreed before she could talk herself out of it. Gave Pete some excuse about feeling sick and left through the back door to avoid any lingering reporters. The coffee shop Vanessa had chosen was expensive, the kind with $15 salads and oat milk lattes that cost more than Sarah's hourly wage. She felt out of place the moment she walked in. But then she saw the woman sitting in the corner booth and forgot about everything else. Vanessa Hartley was beautiful in the way women with money were beautiful. Perfect hair, perfect skin, clothes that fit like they had been tailored specifically for her body. She looked up when Sarah approached and something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe? Or assessment. "Sarah, thank you for coming." Vanessa gestured to the seat across from her. "Please." Sarah sat. Ordered water when the server came because she refused to spend $8 on coffee out of spite. "I will get right to it," Vanessa said once they were alone. "You need to walk away from Michael, now, before you get hurt worse than you already are." That is rich coming from his ex-wife, which is exactly why you should listen to me. Vanessa leaned forward. "I know what you are thinking, that I am jealous, that I want him back, but I do not. I am remarried. I am happy. I am here because I see myself in you, and I do not want you to make the same mistakes I did." "What mistakes?" "Believing that love is enough." Vanessa's perfectly manicured hands wrapped around her own overpriced latte. "I met Michael when I was 29. He was building his company. I was working in fashion. We fell hard and fast. Got married within a year. I got pregnant. We had Lucas. And that is when everything fell apart." Sarah wanted to interrupt, wanted to defend Michael, but something in Vanessa's eyes kept her quiet. "I had postpartum depression, severe. I could not bond with Lucas, could not get out of bed some days. And Michael, he tried. I will give him that. But he was also building an empire, working 18-hour days, never home. I was drowning, and he was in board meetings." Vanessa's voice cracked slightly. "I left when Lucas was 3, walked away from my marriage and my son because I could not breathe anymore. I am sorry." Sarah meant it. Whatever else this woman was, she had clearly suffered. "Do not be sorry for me, be smart for yourself." Vanessa's eyes hardened. "I was from his world, Sarah. I understood the rules. I knew how to dress for galas and make small talk with investors and smile while they judged every word out of my mouth. And I still could not survive being Michael Thornton's wife. I'm not trying to be his wife. Maybe not now. But eventually he will want that. And when you say yes, because you love him and you love Lucas and you think love conquers all, that is when the real nightmare begins." She leaned closer. "They will tear you apart. The media, the society women, the business partners who think you are not good enough. They will dissect everything about you. Your clothes, your job, your background. They will find every mistake you ever made and broadcast it for entertainment." "They already are," Sarah whispered. "And it will get worse, much worse." Vanessa pulled out her phone, scrolled for a moment, then turned the screen to face Sarah. "Look, it was a news article from a major outlet. Not a gossip blog this time, real news." The headline read, "Michael Thornton linked to Brooklyn waitress. Questions about CEO's judgment surface." The article detailed Sarah's life, her 2 jobs, her student loan debt that she had defaulted on years ago, her eviction from an apartment when she was 23 and could not make rent, details about her father's death, about her mother's job as a housekeeper, everything laid bare for public consumption. "They did this overnight," Vanessa said quietly. "Can you imagine what they will do if you stay? If you marry him?" They will destroy you. Sarah pushed the phone away. Her hands were shaking. How did they find all this? Money buys information. And Michael's world has a lot of money. She paused. I am not trying to be cruel. I am trying to help you see reality. You cannot win this. You cannot survive in his world. Maybe his world needs to change. Vanessa laughed, but it was not unkind. I thought that too. Thought I could be the one to make him see that money and power are not everything. But the world does not change for people like us, Sarah. We change for it. Or we break. What do you want from me? I want you to walk away. For your own good. For Lucas's good. Because I am filing for amended custody. I want back in my son's life. And if you are there making everything complicated, it will hurt him more than it already will. Sarah's stomach clenched. You abandoned him. I was sick. Vanessa's voice hardened. Mental illness is not a choice, and I am healthy now. I am his mother. I have rights. He does not even remember you. Then I will help him remember. But you, Sarah, you are just the girlfriend. Temporary, replaceable. And when this all falls apart, when Michael realizes that keeping you costs too much, you will be the one left broken. The words hit like physical blows. Sarah stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. I need to go. Vanessa stood too. I am sorry, truly. But someone needed to tell you the truth. She reached into her purse, pulled out a business card. If you need anything, when you need anything, call me. Sarah took the card without knowing why. Then she walked out of the coffee shop into the gray afternoon and felt the world closing in around her. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. She answered without thinking. Sarah Mitchell, this is Jennifer Cole from the New York Times. I would love to talk to you about your relationship with Michael Thornton. Can we set up an interview? Sarah hung up, blocked the number. Her phone immediately rang again. Different number, same request. She turned it off completely. When she got home, there was a package outside her door. Large, no return address. Just her name written in handwriting she recognized. Michael's handwriting. She should have thrown it away, should have left it in the hallway. But her hands were opening it before her brain could stop them. Inside were the art supplies, all of them. The ones from the window display she had looked at that first night. Professional brushes, canvas, oil paints, watercolors, sketchbooks. Everything she had ever wanted and could never afford. A note sat on top. Because someday should be now. Because your dreams matter. Because you matter. I am sorry is not enough, I know that. But I am sorry anyway. For lying, for hurting you, for putting you in this position. You owe me nothing. These are not an apology. They are a promise. You are enough, Sarah. You have always been enough. Whether you forgive me or not, please do not stop creating. Please do not let my mistakes make you smaller. Love, Michael. Sarah stared at the supplies. At the hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars worth of materials that would change her art. That would let her create the way she had always dreamed. And she felt nothing but rage. This was what he thought would fix it. Money. Things. As if the problem was that she needed art supplies and not that she needed the truth. As if she was some charity case he could solve with his checkbook. As if her anger could be bought. She left the box in the hallway, walked into her apartment, sat on her bed in the dark and made a decision. She pulled out her phone, turned it on long enough to send one text to Michael's original number, knowing he would find a way to see it. Do not contact me again, I mean it, we are done. Then she blocked every number he had used, deleted their messages, deleted his photos, removed every trace of him from her phone like she could delete him from her life just as easily. But she could not delete Lucas, could not stop seeing his small face asking if she was mad at him, could not stop hearing his laugh or feeling his small hand in hers, could not stop loving a child who was not hers to love. Maya found her there an hour later, surrounded by darkness and the wreckage of her own hope. She did not say anything, just climbed into bed beside her best friend and held her while she cried, held her while she shattered, held her while she grieved for a life she had barely started to believe in. Outside, the city went on. Michael Thornton, somewhere in his penthouse, probably trying to figure out how to fix something that was beyond fixing. Vanessa Hartley in her perfect life with her perfect second chance. Lucas Thornton wondering why the nice lady who drew with him had disappeared. And Sarah Mitchell, 26 years old, waitress and artist, learning once again that hope was a luxury she could not afford. She had walked away from $850 million, and the man she had started to love, and the child who had become precious to her in just 3 weeks. But staying would have cost her something money could never buy: her sense of self, her dignity, her belief that she deserved to be chosen for who she was, not what she could become with enough money and polish. She was enough. She had to believe that. Even if right now, lying in the dark with her heart in pieces, enough felt like the loneliest word in the world. The art supplies sat in the hallway for 3 days before Sarah finally dragged them inside. Not because she forgave Michael, not because she was ready to use them, but because leaving expensive things in a Brooklyn hallway was asking for them to be stolen. And she was not going to let his guilt gift become someone else's windfall. She shoved the box in her closet, out of sight, a problem for future Sarah to deal with. Present Sarah had enough to worry about, like the fact that she could not go to work without reporters asking questions, like the fact that her Instagram was flooded with hate from strangers, like the fact that every time she closed her eyes, she saw Lucas's face and wondered if he thought she had abandoned him like his mother had. On the 4th day, her phone rang from yet another unknown number. She almost did not answer, but something made her pick up. Maybe exhaustion, maybe the small part of her that still hoped. It was not Michael, it was a lawyer. "Ms. Mitchell, my name is Sandra Chen. I represent Michael Thornton. He wanted me to reach out." Sarah's heart sank. "Tell him to stop. He is not asking you for anything. He just wanted you to know that he has issued a statement to the press, that they are to leave you alone, that anyone who contacts you or comes to your workplace will face legal action." That does not fix anything. "He knows, but he is trying." The lawyer paused. "He also wanted me to tell you that Lucas asks about you every day, that he misses you, and that if you ever want to see the boy again, Michael will make it happen. No strings attached." Sarah closed her eyes against the tears. "I cannot." "I understand." The lawyer's voice softened. "For what it is worth, I have known Michael for 8 years. I have never seen him care about anyone the way he cares about you." Then he should have told me the truth. "You are right, he should have. I am sorry." The call ended. Sarah sat with her phone in her hands and felt the weight of all her choices pressing down. She could forgive him, could try to build something real from the ashes of his lies, could let herself love Lucas fully, and hope that was enough to survive the world Michael lived in. Or she could protect herself, could choose safety over risk, could walk away and spend the rest of her life wondering what if. She chose safety, because that was what survivors did. They protected themselves first, before hope, before love, before the devastating possibility that maybe, just maybe, some things were worth fighting for. But late at night, alone in her apartment with the sounds of the city filtering through thin walls, Sarah pulled out her sketchbook and drew. Drew Michael's face, drew Lucas's smile, drew the 3 of them at the park in the rain, drew the family she had almost become part of, drew the life she had walked away from. And every line she put on paper felt like both a goodbye and a maybe someday. Because Sarah Mitchell might have chosen safety tonight, but deep down, in the part of her that still believed in impossible things, she had not given up completely. Not yet. Not while her heart still knew how to break. Silence, Sarah learned, was louder than any argument. For 2 weeks, she did not hear from Michael, and that silence screamed everything she had been afraid to believe, that she had been right to walk away. The days blurred together in a haze of double shifts and exhaustion. Sarah threw herself into work with the kind of desperate energy that came from trying to outrun your own thoughts. Pete's Diner became her sanctuary, the familiar rhythm of orders and coffee refills, the same customers wanting the same things, a world where nothing changed and no one expected her to be anything other than exactly who she was, the waitress who showed up on time and did her job and went home alone. The reporters had finally stopped coming after Michael's lawyers sent official cease and desist letters. Sarah's Instagram had gone private. Her phone number had been changed. She had built walls so high around herself that nothing could get in. Not hope, not hurt, not the memory of a 6-year-old boy asking when she was coming back. Maya watched her with worried eyes, but knew better than to push. There were some kinds of pain you had to sit with, some kinds of grief that had no shortcuts. So she just made sure Sarah ate, made sure she got home safe after late shifts, made sure she was not completely alone, even when alone was all Sarah wanted to be. The art supplies still sat in Sarah's closet, unopened, a reminder of everything she had almost let herself want. Some nights she stood in front of the closet door and put her hand on the handle, almost opened it, almost let herself create something with tools that cost more than her monthly rent. But then she would remember Michael's face when that phone call came through. The guilt, the shame, the confirmation that everything had been a lie. And she would close the closet and go to bed and try not to dream about what could have been. It was Maya who finally broke the silence on a Tuesday morning. They were prepping the diner before opening, filling salt shakers and wiping down tables in the pre-dawn quiet. Sarah was moving on autopilot, had been for days, moving but not living, breathing but not alive. "You cannot keep doing this," Maya said quietly. "Doing what? Whatever this is, punishing yourself?" "I am not punishing myself, I am protecting myself." "From what? From being happy?" Maya set down the salt shaker she had been filling and turned to face Sarah fully. "Because from where I am standing, you have not smiled in 2 weeks, have not drawn anything, have not done anything except work and sleep and exist. What do you want me to do? I want you to talk to him." "No. Sarah, he made a mistake, a big one. But people make mistakes. He lied about everything. Not everything. Not about how he felt. Not about Lucas." Maya's voice softened. "That little boy loved you. Still loves you probably. And you loved him back. I saw it. That is exactly why I cannot go back." Sarah felt the familiar tightness in her chest, the panic that came whenever she let herself think about Lucas. Because when this falls apart, when Michael gets tired of dealing with how complicated I make his life, it is not just me who gets hurt. It is Lucas. And he has already been abandoned once. I will not do that to him. "So you abandoned him first? To protect him? To protect us both?" Maya shook her head. "You are doing what your dad did, working yourself to death to avoid feeling anything. And look where that got him." The words hit like a slap. Sarah's eyes burned. "That is not fair." "No, it is not. But it is true." Maya reached across the table and took Sarah's hand. "Your father loved you, loved your mom, but he was so busy surviving that he forgot to live. And then he died and left you both behind with nothing but bills and grief. Do not make the same mistake." "I'm not my father." "Then stop acting like him. Stop choosing survival over life." Sarah pulled her hand away. Her phone was buzzing in her apron pocket. Probably a text from the electric company reminding her the bill was overdue. Or her mom needing money for groceries. The endless parade of need that was her real life. Not fairy tales with billionaires, not family dinners with a man who owned half of Manhattan. Just reality. Cold and relentless, and hers. She pulled out her phone to silence it. Unknown number. She almost did not answer, but something in the pattern of the rings felt urgent, desperate. She stepped away from Maya and answered. "Sarah?" The voice was small, young, terrified in a way that made her heart stop. "It is Lucas." Everything else disappeared. The diner, Maya, the walls she had built so carefully. All of it crumbled at the sound of his voice. "Lucas? Honey, how did you get this number?" "I memorized it, from before." "When you gave it to Daddy?" His breath hitched. "Sarah, why do not you come over anymore?" The question gutted her. She pressed her free hand against the wall to steady herself. "Lucas, buddy, I cannot explain this in a way that will make sense." "Did I do something wrong?" "No, God, no, you did not do anything wrong. You are perfect." "Then why did you leave?" His voice broke on the last word, and Sarah heard it. The echo of every abandonment he had ever experienced. His mother. Now her. A pattern forming in his young mind that people who said they cared eventually disappeared. "It is complicated, grown-up stuff." "That is what Daddy said. But grown-ups always say that when they do not want to tell the truth." His voice got quieter. "I thought you were going to stay. I thought you were going to be my family." Sarah slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor of Pete's diner at 6 in the morning, with tears streaming down her face. "I wanted to stay. I wanted that so much." "Then why did not you? Are you mad at Daddy?" "I am not mad. I am just scared." "Of what?" "Of getting hurt. Of hurting you." "But you are hurting me now." Lucas's simple logic cut through every justification she had built. By not being here. In the background, Sarah heard Michael's voice. "Lucas? Who are you talking to?" "I have to go." Lucas whispered. But Sarah, please come back. Daddy is sad all the time now, and I miss you. The call ended. Sarah sat there on the cold floor holding her phone and shaking. Maya crouched beside her, a hand on her shoulder but not speaking. Knowing that sometimes there were no words. He called me, Sarah finally managed. Lucas called me. What did he say? That I am hurting him by staying away. That he misses me. That Michael is sad. Sarah looked at Maya with eyes that felt raw. What am I supposed to do with that? You are supposed to stop running. I am not running, I am being smart. No, you are being scared. And I get it. I do. But Sarah, that little boy just told you he needs you. And you are going to what, ignore him to protect yourself? It is not that simple. Yes, it is. Maya's voice was gentle but firm. You love him, you love Michael, and they love you back. Everything else is just noise. But the noise matters. The lies, the money, the world he lives in that I do not fit into. So make it fit. Or build a new world together. But do not throw away something real, because you're afraid it might not last. Maya stood up, offered her hand. Nothing lasts forever, Sarah. That does not mean it is not worth having while we can. Sarah let Maya pull her to her feet. Her shift was starting in 15 minutes. She needed to wash her face, needed to pull herself together, needed to decide if she was brave enough to try again or smart enough to stay away. But for the first time in 2 weeks, the walls she had built felt less like protection and more like a prison. That night, Sarah came home to find an envelope slipped under her door. Thick, heavy, her name written in handwriting she recognized even though she had only seen it once before. Michael's handwriting. She picked it up with shaking hands and carried it inside. Set it on her small table and stared at it while she made tea she did not drink, while she changed out of her work clothes, while she tried to convince herself she did not need to read whatever was inside. But curiosity was stronger than fear, or maybe hope was stronger than self-preservation. Sarah opened the envelope and pulled out 5 pages, handwritten, every word in that same careful script. She curled up on her bed and began to read. Dear Sarah, I have started this letter 17 times. Each time I tried to find the perfect words to explain why I lied. But there are no perfect words. There is only the truth. My name is Michael Thornton. I am 36 years old. I have built a company worth $850 million. I have 2,000 employees who depend on me. I have been on the cover of Forbes magazine. I have more money than I will ever spend. And for 15 years, not a single person has seen me. They see the CEO, the billionaire, the deal maker, the opportunity, the investment, the social climber's target. When I walk into a room, people calculate, what can he do for me? How do I get close? What is his network worth? No one asks what makes me laugh, what keeps me up at night, what I dream about that has nothing to do with money. Except you. You asked me what I wanted. If life stopped demanding so much, what would I do? No one has asked me that in a decade. You showed me your drawings like they were treasures, not embarrassments. You split a $5 check because equality mattered more than my wallet. You looked at Lucas and saw a boy, not a trust fund. You saw me, Sarah. Just me. And I was so desperate to keep that feeling that I lied. Sarah's hands were trembling, but she kept reading. I should have told you my real name that first night, I know that. But I was so tired of performing, of being Michael Thornton, CEO, instead of just Michael. The person I used to be before the money. The person who still does not know how to make grilled cheese without burning it. The person who reads the same dinosaur book every night for 6 months because it makes his son feel safe. The person who is so lonely sometimes he forgets what it feels like to be seen. I told myself one more coffee, one more walk, one more afternoon where someone wants me for me. But it was not one more. It became everything. And by the time I realized I was in love with you, I was buried so deep in the lie, I did not know how to dig out without losing you. The words blurred. Sarah wiped at her eyes and continued. So I am telling you now. I lied about my name and my job, but I never lied about my feelings. Every word I said about who I am as a father, as a man, as someone trying to figure out how to be happy, that was true. Every moment I spent with you was not Michael Thornton, the CEO. It was just Michael, the person I want to be again. You asked me once why I looked so sad in photos. The truth? Because I was performing, always performing. Until I met you. I do not expect forgiveness. I do not expect you to come back. But I needed you to know. You were not my charity case. You were my salvation. You were not my project. You were my partner. You were not my scandal. You were my truth. Sarah's chest felt like it might crack open. She read on. The art supplies were not an apology. They were a promise. Your dreams matter. Not because I am rich, but because you matter. I love you, Sarah Mitchell. Not Sarah the waitress. Not Sarah who needs saving. Just Sarah. The woman who sees beauty in ordinary moments. Who fights for her dignity. Who teaches my son that gentleness is strength. If you cannot forgive me, I understand. But please do not punish yourself. Do not let my mistake make you smaller. You deserve art supplies, and gallery shows, and a life where you do not choose between brushes and groceries. Whether that life includes me or not, please choose you. The next paragraph made her breath catch. Lucas misses you. He asks every day if you are coming back. I tell him you needed space, but he is 6. He does not understand adult complications. He just knows someone he loves disappeared. If you cannot forgive me, I get it. But if you can find it in your heart to call him, just once, so he knows you are okay, I would be grateful. His number is on the back of this letter. Call anytime. Sarah flipped the page over. There was a phone number, and below it, one more line. I am sorry. Is not enough, I know that. But I am sorry anyway, for lying, for hurting you, for putting you in an impossible position. You owe me nothing, but you deserve everything. Please remember that. Always, Michael. Sarah read the letter 3 times. Then she set it down carefully on her nightstand and lay back on her bed, staring at the ceiling crack she had memorized over the past 2 weeks. The letter changed nothing. He had still lied, had still let her pour her heart out while keeping his own truth hidden. But it also changed everything, because she could hear his voice in every word, could feel his loneliness, could understand the desperation that came from being seen as a thing instead of a person. She picked up her phone, stared at the number he had written. Lucas's number. She should not call, should let this wound heal instead of picking at it, should protect herself and the boy from more pain. But Maya's words echoed in her head. You are hurting him by staying away. Sarah dialed before she could stop herself. He answered on the first ring. Sarah? Lucas, hi, buddy. You called. His voice was pure joy, and it broke something in her. I did not think you would call. I'm sorry I did not call sooner. Are you still mad? I'm not mad, sweetie. I'm just figuring some things out. Grown-up things? Yeah, grown-up things. There was a pause. Then, in a smaller voice, Are you coming back? Sarah closed her eyes. The truth was she did not know. Did not know if she was brave enough or stupid enough or desperate enough to try again. Did not know if love was worth the risk of being destroyed by a world she did not belong to. But she knew one thing. She knew this child deserved better than another person who disappeared. Can I think about it? Okay. Lucas sounded sad but resigned. Sarah? Yeah? I drew you a picture of us at the park. Daddy said you would want it even if you do not come back. I do want it. Can I send it to you? Yes, please. Okay. Lucas paused. Sarah, I love you. The words hit like a freight train. She had to press her hand over her mouth to keep from sobbing out loud. I love you too, buddy. So much. When the call ended, Sarah lay in the dark of her apartment and let herself cry. Not the bitter tears of betrayal, not the angry tears of humiliation. Just grief. Pure and simple. Grief for what she had almost had. What she had walked away from, what she was still too scared to reach for again. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She opened it and saw a photo. Lucas's drawing, crayon on construction paper. 3 stick figures at the park. One tall, one small, one in the middle holding both their hands. Above them, a sun with a smile. Below them, grass and flowers. And at the bottom in careful letters, probably traced from his teacher's handwriting, family. Sarah saved the photo, set it as her phone background, and made a decision. She did not know if she could forgive Michael, did not know if they could build something real from the ashes of his lies, but she owed it to herself, to Lucas, to at least try, to at least have the conversation, to at least give love a chance before fear won completely. She texted Michael's original number, knowing he would see it somehow. "Can we talk? In person?" The response came 30 seconds later. "Yes, anytime, anywhere. Tell me when and where." "Tomorrow, 7 p.m., Corner Café. Where it started. I will be there." Sarah set her phone down and tried to sleep. Failed. Spent the night staring at the ceiling and rehearsing what she would say. How she would protect herself while still being open. How she would demand the truth while still leaving room for forgiveness. How she would choose love without losing herself. By the time the sun rose, she still had no answers, just a knot in her stomach and a hope so fragile it felt like it might shatter if she breathed wrong. The day passed in slow motion. Sarah called in sick to the diner, could not face customers and small talk when her entire future was balanced on a conversation she did not know how to have. She pulled the art supplies from her closet, opened them for the first time. The brushes were professional quality, the kind that would last decades if cared for properly. The paints were colors she had only dreamed of owning, rich, vibrant, possibilities made tangible. She sat up at her small table and began to paint, not thinking about what she was creating, just letting her hands move, letting color and light speak what words could not. Hours passed, the light shifted, and when she finally stepped back, she saw what she had made. A portrait. Michael kneeling in the grass, Lucas beside him learning to tie his shoes. The two of them caught in a moment of patience and love and ordinary grace. She had painted it from memory, but every detail was perfect, because she had memorized them, had studied them without knowing she was doing it, had fallen in love with the small moments that made them who they were. Sarah cleaned her brushes and got dressed. Simple clothes, nothing fancy, just herself. She arrived at Corner Cafe at 6:45, 15 minutes early, nervous energy making it impossible to wait at home. The cafe looked exactly the same. Same chalkboard menu, same mismatched chairs, same corner table by the window where they had first sat together when she thought he was Daniel, and he let her believe it. Michael was already there, sitting in the same spot, wearing jeans and a plain sweater, looking as nervous as she felt. He stood when he saw her, did not approach, just waited, letting her come to him or walk away, giving her the choice. Sarah walked to the table and sat down. "Hi." "Hi." His voice was rough, like he had not slept either. "Thank you for coming. I'm not sure why I'm here." "Because you are braver than you think you are, or more stupid." "No, never that." Michael's hands were on the table. She could see them shaking slightly. "I read your letter," Sarah said. "All 5 pages. And I am still angry. You should be. But I am also tired of being angry. Tired of being scared. Tired of protecting myself from everything, including the possibility that something good might actually happen." Michael leaned forward. "I know I do not deserve another chance. I know sorry does not fix lying. But Sarah, I swear to you, I will never lie to you again. About anything, no matter how small, no matter how hard the truth is. You deserve that. You have always deserved that. How do I know I can trust you? You do not. Not yet. I have to earn that back. And I will. Every day. For as long as you let me." The server came over. Same woman from the first night. She smiled at them like she remembered. "What can I get you?" "Coffee," Sarah said. "Just coffee." "Same," Michael added. When they were alone again, Sarah asked the question that had been eating at her. "Why me? You could have anyone. Anyone from your world who understands the rules. Why choose someone who makes everything harder?" "Because everyone from my world wants Michael Thornton. The money, the status, the access." Michael's eyes held hers. "You wanted Daniel, the consultant, the single dad, the regular person. You split a $5 check because equality mattered. You saw me, Sarah, not my bank account. Me, but you lied about who you were. How is that being seen?" "I lied about my name and my job, but everything else was real. My loneliness, my love for Lucas, my fear that I am failing as a father, my exhaustion at performing all the time. That was all true. And you listened. You cared. You made me feel like I mattered as a person, not a position. The coffee arrived. They both wrapped their hands around the warm mugs. Neither drinking, just holding on to something solid. I do not fit in your world, Sarah said quietly. I saw the articles, the comments. People think I'm a gold digger, that I am using you, that I am not good enough. People will always judge, Michael's voice was firm. But their opinions do not matter. Only yours does. And mine. And Lucas's. Lucas called me. I know. Michael smiled slightly. He is not subtle. But he was right. I am sad without you. Sad in a way I did not know I could be until you showed me what happy felt like. I am scared. Sarah's voice broke. Scared of getting hurt. Scared of hurting Lucas. Scared that I will lose myself trying to fit into a life I was not built for. Then do not fit. Michael reached across the table, stopped just short of touching her hand, letting her decide. I am not asking you to enter my world. I am asking you to help me build a new one. One where your dreams matter as much as my deals. Where Lucas gets stability and you get your art and I get to be Michael instead of just the CEO. What does that look like? I do not know yet, but we figure it out together, slowly. On your terms, no cameras, no performance, just us. And when it gets hard, when the media attacks me again, when your board thinks I am a liability, then we face it, together. Michael's hand moved closer. I will not ask you to fight alone. I will be right there beside you. Sarah looked at his hand, at the space between them, at the choice she had to make. Safety or risk, protection or possibility, surviving or living. She thought about her father working himself to death, about Maya's words, about Lucas's drawing of their family, about the portrait she had painted that morning, about all the moments she had captured in her sketchbook of a life she had convinced herself she could not have. She placed her hand in his. The touch was electric, familiar, right in a way that terrified her. I'm not saying I forgive you, not yet, but I am saying I am willing to try. That is all I'm asking. Michael's fingers closed around hers. We will go slow as you need. And if I need to walk away again, then I will let you go. But I will also keep showing up, keep proving that I choose you every single day. They talked for 2 hours about everything, about his company and the pressure, about her art and the dreams she had buried, about Lucas and co-parenting, and whether Sarah was ready to be a part of that officially, about Vanessa and the complicated grief that came with watching someone walk away from their child, about money and class, and the 1,000 small ways the world tried to tell them they did not belong together. When they finally left the cafe, it was dark. The city glittered around them. Michael walked her home. They did not kiss, did not make promises they were not ready to keep. Just walked side by side and let the silence be comfortable instead of terrifying. At her building, Michael stopped. Can I see you again? Saturday. Same park, same time. And Lucas. Sarah smiled slightly. I owe him a drawing lesson. He will be so happy. Michael's whole face lit up. Thank you, Sarah, for giving me this chance. Do not waste it. I will not, I promise. She watched him walk away, watched him get into that same black sedan that had started her suspicions. But this time she was not afraid of what it represented, just aware, just choosing with eyes open instead of closed. Her phone buzzed as soon as she got inside, a text from Michael. I know we are taking this slow, but I need you to know, I love you. I have loved you since you showed me that sketchbook and let me see the world through your eyes. You do not have to say it back. I just needed you to hear it. Sarah stared at the message. She could ignore it, could pretend she had not seen it, could protect herself a little longer. But what was the point of trying again if she was not going to be honest? She typed back, I love you too. That is the scary part. I love you and Lucas, and I do not know how to protect myself while loving you. But I am going to try. His response was immediate. That is all I need. We will figure out the rest. Sarah got ready for bed feeling lighter than she had in 2 weeks. Not fixed, not healed, but hopeful in a way that felt dangerous and necessary at the same time. She fell asleep looking at Lucas's drawing, at the 3 stick figures holding hands, at the word family written in crayon, at the possibility that maybe, just maybe, she could have this. Saturday came bright and clear. Sarah arrived at the park carrying her sketchbook and the small watercolor set from the art supplies Michael had sent. Lucas spotted her before Michael did and came running so fast he nearly knocked her over. Sarah, you came back. She caught him in a hug, breathing in the scent of child shampoo and sunshine. Of course I came back. I promised, did I not? You did, but sometimes grown-ups break promises. Not this one, buddy, not this one. Michael approached more slowly, gave them space, gave Sarah the chance to connect with Lucas without the weight of their own complicated relationship. When she finally looked up, he was smiling in a way that made her chest tight. Thank you, he mouthed. They spent the afternoon the way they always had. Lucas played, Sarah drew. Michael watched them both with an expression that was equal parts love and relief and cautious hope. It felt normal, easy, like the three of them fit together in a way that made sense despite all the reasons it should not. As the sun started to set, casting the park in gold and amber light, they walked back toward the parking area. Lucas was between them, holding both their hands, chattering about a science project he had to do for school. Sarah was listening, really listening, and planning how she could help him build a volcano or solar system or whatever had captured his imagination. She did not notice the cameras until it was too late, did not see the photographers lurking near the park entrance, did not realize they had been followed until flashes started going off and voices started shouting questions. Sarah, Michael, are you back together? Sarah, what do you say to people calling you a gold digger? Is this serious or just a fling? Sarah's first instinct was to run, to cover her face, to protect herself from the exposure. But then she felt Lucas's hand tighten in hers, felt him press closer to her side, scared, and something in her shifted. These people did not get to frighten him, did not get to make him feel like his family was shameful, did not get to dictate how she lived her life. Michael stepped forward, ready to put himself between them and the cameras, ready to shield them both. But Sarah stopped him with a hand on his arm. No, let me. She turned to face the cameras, chin up, shoulders back, the same posture she used when walking into that jewelry store with the security guard who looked at her like she did not belong. Yes, she said clearly, we are together. Any other questions? A female reporter pushed a microphone closer. What do you say to critics who think you are only with him for the money? I say their opinion does not matter. I know who I am. I know why I am here. And I do not owe anyone an explanation. Sarah felt Michael's hand find hers, felt him support her without taking over. That is all I have to say. She turned and started walking. Michael and Lucas fell into step beside her. The photographers followed for a few more yards, shouting more questions. But Sarah kept walking, kept her head up, kept her dignity intact. When they finally reached Michael's car and the photographers were out of range, she let out a breath she had not known she was holding. That was incredible, Michael said quietly. You were incredible. I was terrified. You did not look terrified. You looked like you belonged exactly where you were. Because I do. Sarah looked at Lucas, who was watching her with wide eyes. Because we do. They drove her home. Lucas fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from the park and the excitement. Michael walked Sarah to her door while Lucas slept in the car. He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. Thank you for standing with me today. With us. Thank you for letting me choose to. They kissed then. Soft and slow and full of promise. Full of the understanding that this was not going to be easy, but it was going to be worth it. When they pulled apart, Sarah felt something settle in her chest. Not certainty, not security, just choice. The choice to try, the choice to love, the choice to believe that maybe she was enough just as she was. She watched them drive away, waved to Lucas, who had woken up and was pressed against the window blowing her kisses, watched until the car disappeared around the corner. Then she went inside and opened her phone to check the damage, to see what the internet was saying about her now that she had shown her face again. The photos were already up. Her and Michael and Lucas walking through the park, her facing the cameras, her and Michael holding hands. The headlines were mixed, some supportive, some vicious. But she did not read the comments, did not let strangers tell her who she was or what she deserved. Instead, she opened her messages and sent one to Maya. "I'm trying again. Wish me luck." Maya's response was immediate. "You do not need luck. You are brave enough without it." Sarah smiled and set her phone down. She pulled out the painting she had done of Michael and Lucas, added herself to it now. The three of them together at the park. A family not defined by blood or law or money, just by choice, by showing up, by loving each other despite all the reasons it was complicated. She was hanging it to dry when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost did not answer, but something made her pick up. "Sarah Mitchell?" The voice was female, professional, familiar. "This is Vanessa Hartley. We need to talk." Sarah's stomach dropped. "We already talked." "That was before you got back together with Michael." Vanessa's voice was calm, but Sarah could hear something underneath. Anger, maybe, or fear. "This changes things." "What things?" "I am filing for custody modification. I want Lucas back in my life, and I am not going to let some waitress stand in my way." The call ended before Sarah could respond. She stood there holding her phone and feeling the floor drop out from under her, just when she thought they might actually have a chance, just when she was starting to believe. The universe reminded her that nothing came easy, that choosing love meant choosing the fight that came with it. Her phone buzzed again, a text from Michael. "I just got served with legal papers. Vanessa is filing for custody. We need to talk. Tomorrow?" Sarah looked at the painting drying on her wall, at the three of them together, at the family she had chosen, and who had chosen her back. She could walk away now, before this got messier, before lawyers and court dates and custody battles, before she was in too deep to escape without permanent damage. Or she could stay, could fight, could prove that love was not just about the easy moments, but about standing together when everything tried to tear you apart. She texted back, "Tomorrow, we will face this together." Because that was what family did. They showed up, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. And Sarah Mitchell was finally ready to show up for the life she wanted, instead of settling for the life she thought she deserved. The battle was just beginning, but for the first time in her life, Sarah was not facing it alone, and that made all the difference. They had 3 weeks of peace, 3 weeks of building their new world quietly, carefully, away from cameras and strangers who thought they had the right to opinions about other people's lives. Then Vanessa returned with lawyers and demands, and a nuclear option that would force them to choose between each other and everything else. Sarah kept her apartment. That was the first rule she set, and Michael respected it without question. She was not moving into his penthouse, was not becoming the kind of woman who gave up her independence the moment a man offered something easier. 3 nights a week she stayed at her place. The other 4 she spent with Michael and Lucas. It was a compromise that felt less like settling and more like protecting something precious while it was still fragile. The morning she woke up in Michael's guest room, because she was not ready to share his bed yet, she would hear Lucas padding down the hallway. Small feet on hardwood. A soft knock on her door. "Sarah, are you awake?" And she would let him in, and they would draw together in the early light before school. Dinosaurs mostly, sometimes planets. Once a surprisingly good portrait of his father that made Michael's eyes shine when Lucas presented it at breakfast. Those were the moments Sarah held on to, the ordinary ones, the ones that felt real and solid, and hers in a way nothing else in her life ever had. Making pancakes while Michael burned toast, helping Lucas with homework at the kitchen table. Movie nights where they all fell asleep on the couch, and Sarah woke at 2 a.m. with a 6-year-old's head on her lap and a blanket someone had draped over her shoulders. This was what family felt like. Not perfect, not fairy tale, just present, just chosen, just enough. But the outside world kept pressing in, reminders that peace was temporary and their life together was still a scandal to people who did not know them. The articles had not stopped, just changed tone. Now, instead of calling Sarah a gold digger, they speculated about when Michael would propose, counted down to an engagement that neither of them had discussed, posted photos of them at the grocery store with captions analyzing Sarah's ring finger. Strangers on the internet planning their wedding while Sarah was still learning how Michael took his coffee. It was Diane Chen who called with news that should have been purely good. Sarah was at Pete's diner, working the lunch shift, when her phone buzzed. She almost did not answer. Unknown numbers were usually reporters. But something made her step into the back hallway and pick up. Sarah Mitchell, this is Diane Chen from Riverside Gallery. Sarah's heart jumped. She knew the gallery, had walked past it 100 times and imagined seeing her work on those pristine white walls. Yes, this is Sarah. I saw your work. Someone left your sketchbook here a few weeks ago. Someone. Sarah knew who. Michael had probably orchestrated this. Part of her wanted to be angry about the manipulation. The other part was too excited to care. You saw my work? I did, and I want to feature you in our Emerging Artist Showcase. Next month, 20 pieces. We handle all the framing and promotion. Sales are split 60-40 in your favor. Sarah pressed her free hand against the wall to steady herself. This was real. This was actually happening. Her art in a real gallery. Her dreams becoming tangible instead of someday wishes. When? 4 weeks from today. Opening night is a Friday. Black tie event, collectors, press, the full treatment. Are you interested? Yes. God, yes. Sarah was already doing math in her head. 20 pieces meant long hours at her table, meant using the art supplies sitting in her closet, meant believing she was good enough to stand next to real artists. Yes, I am interested. Excellent. I will send over the contract. Diane's voice warmed. Your work is special, Sarah. Honest. People are tired of pretense. They want to feel something real. You give them that. When Sarah hung up, she stood in that hallway and let herself feel it. Pride, terror, hope. The complicated cocktail of emotions that came with getting exactly what you wanted, and realizing it meant you had to actually be good enough to deserve it. She called Michael before she could second-guess herself. I just got offered a gallery show. His joy was immediate, unfiltered. Sarah, that is incredible. When? 4 weeks? 20 pieces, black tie opening. There was a pause. Then gently, 4 weeks from today is also the Foundation Gala, the one I have to attend. Oh. Sarah felt the conflict immediately. Your work thing. Not a work thing. A charity thing, but yes, I promised the board I would be there. Michael hesitated. Could you do both? Gallery opening during the day and gala in the evening? Sarah thought about it. About standing in a room full of Manhattan elite in a borrowed dress. About being judged by people who had already decided she was not good enough. About choosing between her dream and Michael's obligation. I do not know if I am ready for the gala. I understand. But, Sarah, I would really like you there, not as a performance, just as my partner. Michael's voice dropped. I know it is asking a lot. I know those people have been cruel. But I also know you can handle them. You proved that with the photographers. Let me think about it. Of course, no pressure. Michael paused. But Sarah, congratulations. Really, you deserve this. After the call ended, Sarah stood there feeling the weight of choices. Her art show was a dream coming true. The gala was a test she was not sure she could pass. Doing both meant splitting herself between two worlds that felt fundamentally incompatible. But walking away from either felt like choosing which part of herself mattered more, the artist or the partner, the independent woman or the billionaire's girlfriend. As if she could not be both. Maya found her still standing in the hallway 20 minutes later. You okay? I got a gallery show. Maya screamed and hugged her so hard they both almost fell over. That is amazing. When? Where? How many pieces? Sarah explained, told her about the timing conflict, about the gala, about feeling like she was being pulled in two directions at once. Maya listened the way good friends do, without judgment, without solutions, just presence. What do you want to do? Maya asked finally. I want to do my show and skip the gala and not feel guilty about it. So do that. But Michael needs me there. Does he? Or does his board need proof that you are acceptable? Sarah flinched. That is not fair. Maybe not. But is it true? Maya's voice gentled. I am not saying do not go. I am saying make sure you are going for the right reasons. Not because you are trying to prove something to people who will never approve of you anyway. The conversation stayed with Sarah for days. She painted furiously, finished 3 pieces in a week, portraits of people from her neighborhood, the elderly man who fed pigeons, the nurse coming off a double shift, the teenager working his first job at the bodega, ordinary people living ordinary lives with extraordinary dignity. Her work was getting better, stronger, more confident. She could feel it in every brushstroke. Michael noticed, commented on how alive she seemed, how the creative work was feeding something in her that had been starving. He did not push about the gala, just mentioned it once more a week before. Let her know he had a dress delivered to her apartment, something simple and elegant. Her size, no pressure to wear it if she decided not to come. The choice was hers. The choice, always the choice. Sarah looked at the dress hanging in her closet. Black, classic, expensive in a way that did not scream but whispered. She could wear it, could stand beside Michael and smile at strangers and prove she was strong enough to handle his world. Or she could stay at her gallery opening and claim the night as purely hers. Both felt right. Both felt wrong. She decided the morning of, woke up in her apartment alone and made the choice to try, to do both, to be both, to stop choosing between parts of herself and start integrating them. She would go to her gallery opening in the afternoon, let Diane introduce her to collectors, let her work speak for itself. Then she would change and go to the gala, stand beside Michael, face whatever came, because loving him meant showing up for his life too, even the parts that scared her. The gallery opening was everything she had dreamed. White walls, soft lighting. Her paintings hung with care and labeled with her name. People actually looking at them, actually discussing them. A woman in expensive heels pointing at the portrait of the nurse and saying something about vulnerability and strength. A man in a tailored suit studying the bodega worker and nodding slowly. Diane moving through the crowd with confidence and grace, introducing Sarah to people whose names she immediately forgot because her heart was pounding too hard to process anything beyond the fact that this was real. 3 paintings sold in the first hour, then 2 more. By the time Sarah had to leave for the gala, 7 of her 20 pieces had red dots beside them. 7. $4,900 in sales. Her 60% was $2,940, more than she made in 2 months at the diner, for work she loved doing, for creating instead of serving, for mattering in a way that felt earned. Michael sent a car for her. She changed in the back seat during the drive to Manhattan. The dress fit perfectly. The makeup she had applied in the gallery bathroom stayed intact. She looked like someone who belonged at a charity gala, but she felt like an imposter playing dress-up. The car pulled up to the Metropolitan Museum. Red carpet, actual photographers, people in gowns that cost more than her yearly rent. Sarah's hands were shaking when the driver opened her door. Michael was waiting at the top of the steps. He saw her, and his whole face changed, softened into something that looked like relief and pride and love all mixed together. He met her halfway down, took her hand, kissed her cheek and whispered, "You look beautiful. How was the opening?" 7 sales. Sarah could not keep the smile off her face. 7 pieces. That is incredible. Michael squeezed her hand. Come on, let me show you off. Inside was overwhelming. Chandeliers dripping crystal. Champagne on trays carried by servers in black and white. Women draped in jewels and men in tuxedos that fit like they had been born wearing them. Sarah felt every eye turn toward her as she entered on Michael's arm. Felt the judgment, the calculations, the whispered commentary that was not quite quiet enough. Is that her? The waitress? She looks better than I expected. Still obvious she does not belong. Poor Michael, having to bring her to events like this. I give it 3 months before he gets tired of the novelty. Michael's hand tightened on hers. Ignore them. I am trying. They made their way through the crowd. Michael introduced her to business associates and board members and investors whose handshakes felt like auditions. Sarah smiled and nodded and tried to remember names. Tried not to feel small. Tried to channel the confidence she had felt at her gallery instead of the panic currently clawing at her throat. It was Patricia who saved her, the board member from Michael's company who had been kind in meetings. She appeared at Sarah's elbow with a knowing smile and a glass of champagne. You look like you could use this. Thank you. Sarah took the glass gratefully. First big gala? Patricia asked. Is it that obvious? Only to someone who remembers their first time. Patricia's eyes crinkled with warmth. I was a secretary when I met my husband. These people looked at me exactly the way they are looking at you right now. Like I was a curiosity, a mistake, something to be tolerated until I inevitably left. What did you do? Outlasted them. Patricia sipped her own champagne. Turned out most of the people judging me got divorced within 5 years. Meanwhile, I have been married 40 years and counting. Funny how that works. Sarah laughed despite herself. How did you survive it? I stopped trying to fit in, started being myself. Turns out authenticity is more powerful than pedigree. Patricia squeezed her arm. You are good for him, you know. Michael, I have never seen him actually happy until you. The word settled something in Sarah's chest, made her stand a little taller. Thank you. I needed to hear that. Anytime. Now go mingle. Show them you are not afraid. But Sarah was afraid. Terrified, actually. And it got worse when she overheard a conversation between investors near the bar. She had stepped away to use the restroom, and on her way back, hidden partially behind a column, she heard Michael's name. Thornton has been distracted lately. Stock price is showing it. This thing with the waitress is affecting his judgment. Someone needs to make him see reason. She is a liability. What happens when she embarrasses him at an important meeting? When she does not know the right people or says the wrong thing? He is thinking with the wrong part of his anatomy. It will blow over. Men like him always come to their senses eventually. Sarah's stomach turned. She pressed her back against the column and tried to breathe through the shame. They were right. She did not know the right people, did not speak their language, was learning to navigate Michael's world but would always be an outsider, would always be the liability he had to explain and defend. She was about to slip away to find an exit when Vanessa appeared. Tall and perfect in an emerald gown that probably cost more than Sarah's car, on the arm of a silver-haired man in an expensive tuxedo. Vanessa's eyes found Sarah across the room, and something flickered in them. Recognition, challenge, victory. Michael materialized at Sarah's side. Vanessa is here. I see that. The man she is with is Richard Voss. He owns a company that has been trying to acquire mine for 2 years. Of course he does. Sarah watched Vanessa laugh at something Richard said. Watched her move through the crowd like she had been born to it, because she had. This was Vanessa's world, a world Sarah would never fully belong to, no matter how many charity galas she attended. Vanessa made her way over with Richard in tow. Michael, how lovely to see you. Her smile was perfection. She turned to Sarah. And Sarah, you look comfortable. That dress is lovely. The compliment fell like a slap. Sarah forced a smile. Thank you. Richard and I were just discussing business. Vanessa's hand rested possessively on Richard's arm. He has been so supportive during this difficult time. What difficult time? Michael's voice was carefully neutral. The custody situation. Vanessa's eyes went sad. It has been so hard being away from Lucas, but I am fighting to be part of his life again. A mother's love never dies, you know. Sarah felt Michael tense beside her. We are not discussing this here. Of course not. Vanessa smiled sweetly. This is a party. We should be celebrating. She looked at Sarah. I hear you have a gallery show. How quaint. The word quaint dripped with condescension. Sarah's hands clenched at her sides. It is going well, actually. 7 pieces sold. How wonderful. Making your own money. Vanessa's smile sharpened. Independence is so important, especially in unstable relationships. Our relationship is not unstable. Michael's voice had an edge now. Of course not. Vanessa backed off gracefully. I was just saying. Anyway, we should let you two enjoy your evening. Come, Richard. I see the mayor. They glided away, leaving Sarah feeling like she had just survived a verbal assault disguised as small talk. That woman is dangerous. She is calculated. Michael watched Vanessa work the room. Everything she does has a purpose, including being here tonight with Richard. What purpose? Making me look distracted, unstable, showing the business community that my personal life is affecting my judgment. He turned to Sarah. I'm sorry. I should have warned you she might be here. It is fine. But it was not fine. Nothing about this was fine. Sarah could feel the walls closing in, the weight of expectations and judgments in a battle she had not signed up for. I need some air. She slipped out onto the terrace before Michael could follow. The night air was cool against her flushed skin. The city spread out below. 1,000,000 lights, 1,000,000 lives, all of them easier than hers felt right now. She gripped the stone railing and tried to remember why she had thought she could do this, why she had believed love was worth fighting for when the fight felt impossible to win. Footsteps behind her. She expected Michael, but it was Vanessa who stepped onto the terrace. Alone, the facade of sweetness gone, replaced by something harder. We need to talk, woman to woman. We have nothing to talk about. We have Lucas. That is everything. Vanessa moved closer. I am filing for amended custody, 50-50 split, joint decision-making on school and medical, alternating holidays. You abandoned him. I was sick. Vanessa's voice hardened. Postpartum depression is a medical condition. I am better now. I am his mother. The courts will side with me. Lucas does not even remember you. Then I will help him remember. But you, Sarah, you are just the girlfriend. Vanessa's eyes were cold, temporary, replaceable. Do you really think you can compete with biology? I am not trying to compete. I am trying to love him. Love is not enough. Not in family court. Not when I have lawyers and medical records and maternal rights on my side. Vanessa stepped closer. Walk away now while you still can. Let Michael and me co-parent in peace. You are just making this harder for everyone, especially Lucas. So this is about protecting Lucas? Sarah's voice shook with anger. Not about jealousy, not about winning. This is about a mother getting back what was taken from her. Vanessa's mask slipped slightly. I lost 3 years with my son. 3 years of birthdays and milestones and memories. Do you know what that feels like? No. Sarah's voice softened despite herself. I do not. And I am sorry for that. I am sorry you were sick. I am sorry you had to leave. But Lucas has a life now, a stable life, and I am part of that. For now. But when the custody battle gets ugly, when Michael has to choose between you and his son, who do you think he will pick? Vanessa's voice dropped. Save yourself the heartbreak. Walk away. Why do you care if I get hurt? Because I see myself in you. Vanessa's expression flickered with something real. I was in love too. Thought it would be enough. It was not. His world destroyed me. It will destroy you too. Maybe I am stronger than you think. Maybe. Or maybe you are just naive. Vanessa pulled out her phone, showed Sarah a document. This is the custody filing. It names you specifically. Claims your presence is destabilizing for Lucas. That introducing new romantic partners without proper vetting is harmful. My lawyers are going to dissect your entire life in court. Every mistake, every struggle, every reason you are not qualified to be around my son. Sarah's blood turned cold. They cannot do that. They can, and they will. And you will have to sit there and take it. In front of judges and mediators and Lucas's therapist. They will ask if you are using Michael for money. If you plan to replace me as Lucas's mother. If you are prepared to be a step-parent. Can you honestly tell me you are ready for that? Sarah had no answer. The weight of it all crashed down. The custody battle, the media, the business pressure on Michael, the constant judgment, the impossible position of loving a child who was not hers to claim. She felt herself breaking under it. I did not think so. Vanessa's voice was almost gentle. You are out of your depth, Sarah. Go back to your diner, your art, your real life. This world will chew you up and spit you out. Vanessa walked away, leaving Sarah alone on the terrace with the city lights blurring through tears she refused to let fall. Not here, not where anyone could see. She pulled herself together through sheer force of will and went back inside. Found Michael talking to board members, smiled when he looked at her with concern, mouthed that she was fine even though she was shattering. They stayed another hour. Sarah performed the role of supportive girlfriend, shook hands, made small talk, pretended she belonged. But every moment felt like drowning. Every glance felt like judgment. Every whisper felt like confirmation that Vanessa was right. She did not belong here, could not survive here, was fooling herself to think love would be enough. The car ride home was silent. Michael sensed something was wrong but did not push, just held her hand and let her stare out the window at the city passing by. When they got back to his building, Sarah finally spoke. I need to go home, to my apartment. Stay tonight, please. Michael's eyes searched hers. Whatever happened with Vanessa, we can talk about it. I just need space to think. Sarah, please, I will call you tomorrow. He let her go. Had his driver take her home even though it was past midnight. Sarah climbed the stairs to her apartment and locked the door behind her, and finally let herself fall apart. She sat on the floor of her tiny kitchen and cried. For Lucas, who did not ask for any of this. For Michael, who was caught between his past and his future. For herself and the dream she had let herself believe in. Her phone buzzed. A text from Michael. I love you. Whatever is happening, we will face it together. But Sarah was not sure they could, was not sure she was strong enough, was not sure love was ever enough against lawyers and money and a mother's biological rights. She did not respond, just turned off her phone and sat in the dark until the sun came up. The legal papers arrived 2 days later, delivered by courier to Pete's diner during the lunch rush. Sarah signed for them with shaking hands and took them to the back office. The document was thick, official, terrifying in its formality. Vanessa Hartley versus Michael Thornton. Petition for modified custody arrangement. Lucas Thornton, minor child age 6. The basis was everything Vanessa had threatened. Mental health rehabilitation, maternal rights, child's best interest. And buried in the supporting documentation, paragraphs about Sarah, about how introducing new romantic partners created instability, about how the media attention was harmful to the child, about how the petitioner had concerns regarding the respondent's judgment in romantic relationships. They were using her against Michael, using their love as evidence of his poor decision-making, using her working-class background and public profile as proof she was not suitable to be around Lucas. Every fear she had ever had about not being good enough was typed out in legal language and filed with the court. Sarah called Michael. He was in a meeting but took her call anyway. Did you get the papers? Yes. I am sorry, my lawyers are reviewing them now. We will fight this. Michael, they are using me against you. I know, it does not matter. It does matter. Sarah's voice broke. What if they are right? What if I am making this harder for you? You are not. Sarah, listen to me. Vanessa is doing this because she knows you matter to Lucas. She is threatened by that. It is actually proof that we are doing something right. Or proof that I should walk away before Lucas gets hurt worse. There was a long pause, then quietly, is that what you want? I do not know what I want anymore. Sarah pressed her hand over her eyes. I just know that this is bigger than me, than us. This is about Lucas and what is best for him. And you think walking away is what is best? I think maybe I am in over my head. Michael was quiet for a long moment. Then come over tonight, after Lucas is asleep. Let us talk about this. Really talk, not over the phone. Sarah agreed, even though every instinct told her to run. She showed up at his penthouse at 9 p.m. Lucas was already in bed. Michael was waiting in his living room with the kind of exhaustion that went bone deep. They sat across from each other, and Sarah felt the distance like a physical thing. Talk to me, Michael said. Tell me what you are really afraid of. Everything. Sarah's voice was small. I am afraid of the custody battle, of what they will ask me, of having to defend myself to strangers. I am afraid of Lucas getting caught in the middle, of him being hurt because I am here. I am afraid of you losing him because of me. That will not happen. You do not know that. Sarah leaned forward. Vanessa has rights. She is his mother, and I am just the girlfriend who has been around for a few months. What if the court decides she deserves another chance? What if they give her joint custody and Lucas has to split time between homes? What if that destroys the stability we have built? Then we adapt. We help him through it. We do not give up. But what if giving up is the right thing? What if I am the problem? Michael stood and crossed to her, knelt in front of her chair so they were eye level. You are not the problem. You are the best thing that has happened to us, to me and to Lucas. Do not let Vanessa make you believe otherwise. She is his mother, and you are the woman who shows up, who teaches him to draw and helps with homework and makes him feel safe. Biology does not make you a parent. Presence does. Sarah wanted to believe him, wanted to think presence was enough, but the legal papers sitting in her bag said otherwise, said biology mattered, said maternal rights trumped chosen family, said she had no standing, no claim, no protection if this all fell apart. I need time, she said finally, to think, to figure out if I'm strong enough for this. Michael's face fell, but he nodded. How much time? I do not know. Sarah stood, needed distance before she broke completely. I am sorry. I just need to figure out if I can do this. If I can be what Lucas needs, while also surviving what that costs. She left before he could argue, before she could see the pain in his eyes and let it change her mind. She went home and packed a small bag. Enough clothes for a few days. Her sketchbook. The photo of Lucas's drawing. She needed space. needed to think without Michael's hope and Lucas's need and her own desperate love clouding her judgment. Maya found her sitting on her bed staring at the packed bag. "What are you doing?" "I do not know, leaving maybe." "Where?" "I do not know that either. Just away, somewhere I can think." "Sarah." Maya sat beside her. "Running does not solve anything." "I am not running, I am protecting myself." "From what? From being happy?" "From being destroyed." Sarah turned to face her friend. "They are going to take my entire life apart in court. Every mistake, every struggle, every reason I am not good enough. And I have to sit there and take it. And even if we win, even if Michael keeps primary custody, Lucas will still have to see Vanessa, still have to split time between us, still be torn between the mother who left and the woman who stayed." "So you are going to leave first, before he can be hurt by it?" "I'm trying to figure out what is best for him, not for me." "And you think abandoning him is best?" Maya's voice was sharp. "Because that is what this is, Sarah. You packing a bag and disappearing, that is abandonment." The word hit like a slap. Sarah looked down at her bag, at the evidence of her fear made tangible. "I do not want to hurt him." "Then stay. Fight for him. Show him that when things get hard, the people who love him do not leave." "But what if I am not strong enough?" "Then you get stronger." Maya grabbed her hand. "You have survived poverty and loss, and working yourself to exhaustion. You have built a life from nothing. You are strong enough for this. You are just scared. And that is okay. But do not let fear make you into the thing you are most afraid of becoming." Sarah sat with that, with the truth that running would hurt Lucas more than staying and fighting ever could, that leaving to protect him would teach him the same lesson his mother had taught, that love was conditional, that it disappeared when things got hard. She could not do that to him, could not be another person who said they cared and then walked away. She was unpacking her bag when her phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but something made her answer. "Sarah Mitchell?" "Yes. This is Sandra Chen, Michael's attorney. We need to prepare you for the custody hearing. It is scheduled for 2 weeks from today, and the other side has requested you testify." Sarah's stomach dropped. "They want me to testify?" "Yes. About your relationship with Lucas, your intentions, your background, everything." Sandra's voice was professional but not unkind. "I know this is frightening, but we need to be ready. Can you come to my office tomorrow to prepare?" Sarah looked at the half-unpacked bag, at Maya watching her with knowing eyes, at the choice she had to make, stay and fight, or run and regret. "Yes, I will be there." When she hung up, Maya was smiling. "You are staying." "I am staying." Sarah took a deep breath. "I am terrified, but I am staying." "Good, because Lucas needs you, Michael needs you, and honestly, I think you need them too." Sarah spent the rest of the night putting her life back together, unpacking, calling Michael to tell him she was not leaving, listening to the relief in his voice, promising to face whatever came next together. It was not courage that made her stay. It was love, pure and terrifying and stronger than fear, at least for tonight. The hearing was 2 weeks away, 2 weeks to prepare, to be strong, to prove that she was not a liability or a mistake or temporary, to prove that family was not just biology, that presence mattered, that showing up every day was its own kind of claim. Sarah Mitchell did not know if she would survive the witness stand, did not know if love would be enough against lawyers and laws and maternal rights, but she knew she was done running, done protecting herself at the cost of the people she loved, done letting fear make her smaller. She was showing up, for Lucas, for Michael, for herself, and whatever came next, she would face it standing tall. The courtroom doesn't care about love, it cares about law. And Sarah Mitchell, waitress and aspiring artist, was about to face the fight of her life with nothing but her truth. The 2 weeks before the hearing passed in a blur of preparation and anxiety. Sandra Chen, Michael's attorney, drilled Sarah on every possible question. What is your relationship with Lucas? How long have you known the family? What are your intentions? Do you plan to replace the biological mother? Are you prepared to be a step-parent? Every question felt like a trap. Every answer felt inadequate. But Sandra was patient, thorough. She made Sarah practice until the words felt natural instead of rehearsed. The hardest part was explaining to Lucas what was happening. Michael sat him down 3 days before the hearing and tried to find words that would not terrify a 6-year-old. Your mom wants to see you more often. We are going to talk to a judge about what that looks like. Lucas had looked at Sarah with those serious brown eyes and asked the question that broke her heart. Are you going to leave again? Never, she had promised. No matter what happens with your mom, I am staying right here. The morning of the hearing, Sarah woke at 5 a.m. unable to sleep. She had stayed at Michael's the night before, wanted to be there for Lucas's morning routine, wanted the comfort of familiar spaces before facing the unfamiliar. She made coffee in Michael's kitchen and watched the sun rise over Manhattan and tried to calm the panic threatening to consume her. Michael found her standing at the window. Could not sleep either. Every time I close my eyes, I see myself on the witness stand falling apart. You are not going to fall apart. Michael wrapped his arms around her from behind. You are going to tell the truth. That is all. What if the truth is not enough? Then we deal with it. Together. He turned her to face him. Sarah. No matter what happens today, I love you. Lucas loves you. That does not change. But the custody arrangement might. Maybe. Michael's honesty was both comforting and terrifying. But even if Vanessa gets more time with Lucas, that does not change the fact that you are part of our family. It just means we adapt. Sarah leaned into him and tried to believe it would be okay. Tried to trust that love was enough. Tried to silence the voice in her head that whispered she was about to be torn apart by strangers who thought they knew what was best for a child they had never met. They dropped Lucas at school with Elena. He hugged Sarah extra tight. Good luck today. I know you will do great. How do you know that? Because you always do great. Lucas smiled up at her with complete faith. You are my Sarah. The words carried her through the car ride to Manhattan Family Court, through the security checkpoint and the elevator ride to the third floor, through the moment when she saw Vanessa waiting outside the courtroom, looking perfect and composed in a navy suit that screamed expensive lawyer. Vanessa met Sarah's eyes, and there was something in her expression. Not triumph, not even anger, just determination. The courtroom was smaller than Sarah expected, more like a conference room than the dramatic spaces she had seen on television. The judge's bench, a table for Michael and his lawyer, a table for Vanessa and hers, chairs for witnesses, a court reporter. That was it. No jury, no audience, just the people whose decisions would shape a child's future. Judge Maria Castellano entered, and everyone stood. She was 50-ish, with gray hair pulled back severely, and eyes that suggested she had seen every kind of family drama and was not impressed by any of it. She sat and gestured for everyone else to do the same. Let us begin. Vanessa's lawyer went first, portrayed her client as a woman who had suffered severe postpartum depression, who had made the agonizing decision to step back for the good of her child, who had spent 3 years in treatment, who was now healthy and stable and desperate to be part of her son's life. Medical records were submitted, therapy notes, letters from her current husband attesting to her stability. It was compelling, professional, designed to make Vanessa look like a victim of circumstance rather than a woman who had abandoned her child. Then came Michael's turn. Sandra presented evidence of Lucas's stability, school records showing excellent grades and social development, therapy notes from the counselor who had helped Lucas process his mother's departure, character witnesses including Elena, who had been with the family since Lucas was born. It painted a picture of a child who had thrived despite abandonment, who had built a secure life with his father, who did not need disruption. After lunch, Vanessa took the stand. She was poised, articulate. She described her depression in clinical terms that made it sound like a disease she had conquered rather than a choice she had made. She cried when talking about missing Lucas's first day of kindergarten, his 6th birthday, 3 years of moments she could never get back. And Sarah could see the judge softening, could see the sympathy, a mother who had been sick and was now well-deserved a chance at redemption. The law said so. Then came the cross-examination. Sandra was gentle but firm. Ms. Hartley, in the 3 years since you left, how many times have you visited Lucas? Vanessa's composure cracked slightly. I have called, video chatted when Michael allowed it. How many in-person visits? 3. Her voice was quiet. I was not in a place to see him consistently. My therapist recommended I focus on my own healing first. So you made 3 visits in 3 years. That averages to 1 visit per year. I was sick, but you were well enough to remarry, to travel to Europe twice according to your social media, to attend galas and charity events. Vanessa's lawyer objected. Relevance. The judge allowed it. Ms. Hartley, please answer the question. I was rebuilding my life. That was part of my healing. Sandra did not push harder. Just let the answer sit. Let the judge do the math. A mother who had been too sick to see her son but well enough to live a full social life. The narrative was cracking. Michael testified next. Calm and factual. Yes, he had supported Vanessa during her depression. Yes, he had worked long hours building his company. Yes, he could have been more present. But when Vanessa left, he had stepped up, had become both mother and father, had built a life where Lucas felt safe. And yes, Sarah was part of that life now, an important part. Vanessa's lawyer tried to paint Michael as trying to replace Lucas's mother with a more convenient substitute. Sandra objected. The judge sustained, but the seed was planted. Then it was Sarah's turn. She walked to the witness stand on legs that felt like water, was sworn in, sat down, met Sandra's eyes, and tried to remember to breathe. Ms. Mitchell, how long have you known Lucas Thornton? About 4 months now. And how would you describe your relationship with him? Sarah's voice steadied as she spoke. He is one of the most important people in my life. I care about him deeply. Do you see yourself as his mother? No. Sarah was firm on this. He has a mother. I'm not trying to replace Vanessa. I'm just someone who loves him and wants to be part of his life. What does that look like on a daily basis? I help him with homework, teach him to draw, make breakfast on the mornings I stay over, read to him before bed. The ordinary things. Sarah looked at the judge. I am not doing anything special. I am just being there for him. Then came the cross-examination. Vanessa's lawyer was a woman in her 40s with a sharp suit and sharper questions. Ms. Mitchell, you work as a waitress, is that correct? Yes. Making approximately how much per year? About $25,000 before tips. And you live in a studio apartment in Brooklyn? Yes. Do you have any experience with children? Any formal training in child development? No formal training, I babysit sometimes. So you have no qualifications to be involved in raising a 6-year-old boy. I have love, I have patience, I have presence. Sarah's voice stayed steady. Those are not things you need a degree for. How convenient that you found love with a billionaire. Objection. Sandra was on her feet. Argumentative. Sustained. The judge looked at Vanessa's lawyer. Stick to questions, counselor. The lawyer nodded. Ms. Mitchell, have you and Mr. Thornton discussed marriage? No. Financial arrangements if the relationship ends? No. So you have no legal standing in Lucas's life? You are just the girlfriend. I am the person who is there. Every day. Sarah's hands clenched in her lap. I am the person Lucas runs to when he is excited about something. The person he asks for help when he is frustrated. I am not legally anything, but I am his. The lawyer smiled. How touching. But Ms. Mitchell, is it not true that you initially met Mr. Thornton under false pretenses? That he lied about his identity? He did lie. Sarah met the lawyer's eyes. And I forgave him, because people make mistakes. And real love means seeing past those mistakes to who they really are. But does it not concern you that your relationship is built on deception? Our relationship is built on honesty now, on choosing each other every day despite how hard that is. How noble. The lawyer's voice dripped sarcasm. Tell me, Ms. Mitchell, what happens when Mr. Thornton realizes that keeping you is more trouble than it is worth? When the media attention and the custody battles and the constant judgment become too much? What happens to Lucas then? Another person who claimed to love him walks away? Sarah felt the words like physical blows, but she forced herself to stay calm, to remember Sandra's coaching. I am not going anywhere. You cannot promise that. Actually, I can. Because I have already had chances to walk away. When the media attacked me, when Vanessa threatened me, when this got hard and complicated and scary, I could have left, but I did not, and I will not. Because that little boy deserves people in his life who stay, even if staying means he is caught between you and his biological mother. Sarah took a breath. If Vanessa wants to be part of Lucas's life, I support that. He deserves to know his mother. I am not threatened by that. There is enough love to go around. The lawyer looked surprised, adjusted her notes. So you are saying you would be comfortable with shared custody? I am saying I want what is best for Lucas. If that means he spends time with Vanessa, then yes, I will support that. Sarah looked directly at Vanessa for the first time. I am not trying to take your place. I am just trying to love your son. Something flickered across Vanessa's face. The lawyer paused, then recovered. No further questions. Sarah stepped down feeling like she had been through a battle. Michael caught her hand as she passed, squeezed once. "You were perfect." The judge called for a brief recess. Sarah went to the bathroom and locked herself in a stall and finally let herself shake. She had survived, had told the truth, had not fallen apart, but she had no idea if it had been enough. When they reconvened, the judge dropped a bombshell. "I would like to hear from Lucas." In chambers. Just me and the court-appointed child psychologist. Sarah's heart stopped. No, Lucas should not have to choose. Should not have to be part of this. But Michael's face was grim. He knew this was coming. Had warned Sarah it was a possibility. The judge sometimes spoke to children in custody cases. Got their input. It did not determine the outcome, but it carried weight. They waited 30 minutes. The longest 30 minutes of Sarah's life. She sat beside Michael in the hallway and tried not to imagine what Lucas was saying. Tried not to worry that a 6-year-old was being asked impossible questions about loyalty and love, and who he wanted to live with. Finally, the bailiff called them back in. The judge returned looking thoughtful. She settled in her chair and opened a file. "I have spoken with Lucas, and with Dr. Patterson, the child psychologist who did the evaluation. I would like to share what Lucas said." Sarah could not breathe. The judge read from notes. Lucas says, and I quote, "I do not remember my first mommy very well. I know she is my mommy because Daddy told me. But Sarah is my Sarah. She draws with me and does not get bored. She came to my school play even though other parents were mean to her. She makes Daddy smile again. I do not want to choose, but if I have to, I want to stay with Daddy and Sarah. And if Mommy Vanessa wants to visit sometimes, that is okay. But Sarah is my family now." The last sentence echoed in the silent courtroom. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face. Could not stop them. Could not care that everyone was watching. The judge continued. "Dr. Patterson's evaluation indicates that Lucas has formed a secure attachment to his father and to Ms. Mitchell, that disrupting his current living arrangement would be detrimental to his emotional well-being. However, Dr. Patterson also notes that supervised contact with the biological mother could be beneficial if reintroduced gradually." Vanessa was crying too, quiet tears that she did not bother to wipe away. This court recognizes Ms. Hartley's biological rights and her efforts toward rehabilitation. The judge's voice was formal now. However, the primary consideration is the child's welfare. Lucas has expressed a clear preference for his current living situation. He has demonstrated healthy attachments, stability, academic success. Therefore, this court rules that primary physical custody remains with Michael Thornton. Michael exhaled. Sarah felt his hand tighten around hers. However, the judge looked at Vanessa. "Ms. Hartley is granted supervised visitation, twice monthly for 2 hours. Sessions to be supervised by a court-approved monitor. After 6 months, we will review progress and consider expanding visitation if appropriate. Both parties will participate in co-parenting counseling to facilitate Lucas's relationship with his mother." It was not everything Vanessa wanted, but it was not nothing. Sarah watched Vanessa's face, saw disappointment, but also something else, relief maybe, or acceptance that this was the beginning of a long road back. The judge looked at Sarah. "Ms. Mitchell, you have no legal standing in this case, but Lucas has made it clear you are important to him. I encourage you to continue being present in his life, and I strongly suggest that Mr. Thornton consider formalizing your relationship if that is his intention. Children need stability. Legal protections matter." It was as close to a blessing as Sarah was going to get from a family court judge. She nodded, unable to speak. Court is adjourned. The gavel came down. Outside the courtroom, Vanessa approached them. Michael tensed, but Sarah stepped forward. Vanessa looked at her, really looked at her. "You meant what you said about supporting me being in his life." "Yes. Why?" "Because he is your son, and he deserves to know you." Sarah's voice was gentle. "I am not threatened by you, Vanessa. There is room for both of us in his life." Vanessa's eyes filled with fresh tears. "I underestimated you." "You underestimated yourself. You could have been fighting for him this whole time, but you let fear and shame keep you away." "I know." Vanessa looked at Michael. "I am sorry. for leaving, for staying away so long, for making this so hard. Michael's face softened slightly. I am sorry too, for not seeing how much you were struggling, for not getting you help sooner. It was not your fault. Vanessa wiped her eyes. I made my choices. Now I have to live with them. But I am grateful Lucas has Sarah. Grateful he has someone who loves him the way I should have. You can still love him, Sarah said quietly. Starting now. Starting with those supervised visits. Be there. Be consistent. Let him learn to trust you. What if I mess up again? Then you try again. That is what parenting is. Being there even when you are scared you are not good enough. Vanessa nodded, looked at Sarah with something like respect. Take care of them. I will. Vanessa walked away then, back to her lawyer and her life and the long road of earning back trust she had broken. Sarah watched her go and felt something unexpected. Not anger, not even triumph, just sadness for all the lost years, and hope that maybe, slowly, healing was possible. Michael pulled Sarah into his arms right there in the courthouse hallway. You were incredible in there. I was terrified. You did not look terrified. You looked like you belonged exactly where you were. Where's that? Fighting for our family. They picked Lucas up from school together. He ran to them the way he always did, all energy and excitement and questions about how his day went before asking about theirs. They told him gently about the judge's decision, about how he would get to see his mom twice a month, about how nothing else was changing. Lucas processed it with the resilience of children. Okay, can Sarah still do drawing lessons with me? Yes, buddy, I am not going anywhere. Good, because I am working on a surprise for you. That night, they ordered pizza and watched movies and fell asleep together on the couch. The three of them tangled in blankets in each other. A family not defined by law or biology, but by choice, by presence, by loving each other through the hard parts. 6 months passed. Lucas turned 7 in September with a party in the park. Sarah made the cake, dinosaur-shaped, vanilla with chocolate frosting, because that was Lucas's favorite. Vanessa's supervised visits went well. She arrived on time, brought appropriate gifts, played games and read books, and slowly, carefully, began to rebuild a relationship with the son she had left. Lucas called her Vanessa, not Mom. Maybe someday he would. Maybe not. But he was learning that she was safe, that she would not disappear again, that people could make terrible mistakes and still deserve second chances. Sarah's art career flourished. The gallery show led to commissions, a feature in a local magazine, enough income that she could cut back to part-time at the diner. She kept one shift a week, not because she needed the money, but because it kept her grounded, reminded her where she came from. Maya still worked there, still made sure Sarah ate and slept and did not lose herself in either world she now inhabited. And Michael stepped back from CEO to chairman, hired someone younger and hungrier to run day-to-day operations, focused on philanthropy and time with Lucas, and building a life that felt intentional instead of defaulted to. He and Sarah never did move in together officially. She kept her apartment, he kept his penthouse. But most nights they fell asleep in the same bed. And most mornings they woke up together and it worked. It was Maya who asked the question Sarah had been avoiding. When is he going to propose? Maybe never. We do not need a piece of paper. Lucas needs stability. Legal protections matter. Maya quoted the judge back at her. Plus, you know you want to. Sarah did want to. Wanted the commitment and the ceremony and the public declaration. But she was also scared. Scared that getting married would change things. That the pressure of being Mrs. Michael Thornton would destroy what they had built as Sarah and Michael. As if he could hear her thoughts, Michael surprised her. 3 months after the custody hearing. 3 months of ordinary days and extraordinary love. He suggested dinner at the corner café, the place they had started. Sarah almost said no, suggested somewhere nicer, but Michael insisted. Corner café, 7 p.m., where we began. Sarah arrived early, nervous for reasons she could not name. Michael was already there. Same table by the window, same easy smile, same man who had let her believe he was Daniel and then spent months earning back her trust. They ordered coffee, $5 each. She insisted on paying for hers even though it was ridiculous at this point. Some traditions were worth keeping. I have something for you, Michael said when the coffee arrived. Reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Sarah's heart stopped. Michael. Before you panic, hear me out. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, not flashy, not ostentatious. A vintage band with a small diamond. Elegant and simple, real. This was my grandmother's. She gave it to me before she died and told me to save it for someone who made me want to be better than I was. Michael, I love you, Sarah Mitchell. I have loved you since you showed me that sketchbook and let me see the world through your eyes. You have taught me that wealth is not money. It is time and presence and choosing someone every single day. He took the ring from the box. I am not asking you to enter my world. I am asking you to keep building this world with me, the one where Lucas gets bedtime stories and you get to create art, and I get to be Michael instead of just the CEO. Will you marry me? Sarah looked at the ring, at the man holding it, at the choice in front of her. She thought about her father who had worked himself to death, about her own fear of needing anyone, about the walls she had built and the risk of tearing them down. And then she thought about Lucas's drawings and Michael's letters and the family they had created from nothing but choice and persistence and love. Yes, the word came out as a whisper, then stronger. Yes, I will marry you. He slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. She laughed through tears and kissed him across the table in the same cafe where she had mistaken a billionaire for a $5 blind date, where everything had started with a lie that became the most honest relationship she had ever known. They told Lucas that night. He was so excited he could not sleep. Started planning the wedding immediately with all the seriousness of a 7-year-old event planner. Can we have dinosaur cake? Can I wear a tuxedo? Can Sarah wear a princess dress? Sarah crouched to his level. What if I wear a regular dress? I am not really a princess dress kind of person. You are to me. Lucas hugged her. You are my princess. The wedding planning took 6 months. Sarah insisted on small, intimate, no media circus, no society spectacle, just the people who mattered. They chose the community center where Sarah's father's memorial had been held. Full circle. Coming home. 50 guests. Half from Sarah's world, half from Michael's. The ones who had earned their invitations by being present through the hard times. Margaret sewed Sarah's dress. Ivory silk that draped simply and elegantly. No train, no veil. Just Sarah looking like herself on the best day of her life. Michael wore a suit. Lucas, now 7.5, wore a miniature version. Maya was maid of honor. Michael's business partner James was best man. And Vanessa, in a surprising gesture of grace, was invited. She sat in the back, quiet, respectful, present. The ceremony was short. They wrote their own vows. Sarah went first. Michael, you found me when I was surviving instead of living. You taught me that being enough is not about having enough. I promise to choose you every day, in the easy moments and the impossible ones. I promise to be Lucas's mom, even though that is not what we call me, to love him like my own, to honor Vanessa's place in his life. And I promise to keep drawing, keep creating, keep being me, because that is who you fell in love with. Michael's voice was rough with emotion. Sarah, I have spent my life building things. Companies, wealth, reputation, none of it mattered until I built a life with you. I promise to see you. Not as you fit into my world, but as you are. I promise to be present, to choose family over empire every single time. I promise to protect Lucas's heart and yours with everything I have. You are enough. You have always been enough. And I choose you. The kiss was soft and sweet and full of promise, the kind that said this was not an ending but a beginning. When they pulled apart, Lucas ran up and hugged them both. Can I call you Mom now? We are married, so you are my mom, right? Sarah looked at Michael. He nodded. She crouched down and took Lucas's hands. You can call me whatever feels right, buddy. Mom, Sarah, Mom, Sarah. I am yours no matter what. Mom Sarah, like a superhero name. Lucas grinned. I like it. The reception was simple. Food from Pete's Diner because it felt right to bring her old world into her new one. Dancing, toasts. Maya made everyone cry talking about Sarah's journey from survival to happiness. Patricia from Michael's board made everyone laugh, talking about society's horror. When Michael chose authenticity over pedigree, and Lucas gave a speech that was mostly about dinosaurs but ended with, I love my family. All of them. Even Vanessa, who is trying really hard. It was perfect. Not magazine perfect, not society perfect, just real and honest in theirs. 1 year later, Lucas was 8 years old. Taller, more confident. His reading had improved dramatically under Sarah's patient tutoring. He still loved dinosaurs, but now he also loved space and marine biology, and insisted he was going to be a paleontologist astronaut when he grew up. Sarah told him he could be anything he wanted. Sarah sat in her art studio, the one Michael had helped her find. Small but beautiful, with north-facing windows and enough space to work. She was painting a commission, a family portrait, but not the formal kind, the messy kitchen table homework kind, the real moments kind. Her specialty now, capturing ordinary beauty. Her phone buzzed with the text from Lucas's school. "Family day next Friday. Please come talk about your job." Sarah smiled. Last year she would have been terrified. This year she was just grateful to be included, to be family in the eyes of a school and a judge, and most importantly, a little boy who called her mom Sarah. Michael came home early, found her in the studio covered in paint. "You are beautiful." "I am a mess." "Same thing." He kissed her paint-smudged nose. "Lucas wants to know if we can get a dog." "Absolutely not." "That is what I said." "He asked me to ask you because you are nicer." "I am not nicer. I am just more easily manipulated by his puppy dog eyes." "Should I be worried?" "Probably." Sarah cleaned her brushes. "How was work?" "Boring. I missed you." "You saw me this morning." "Still missed you." Michael pulled her close. "Do you ever regret it, choosing this life?" Sarah thought about it honestly. About the media attention that still flared up occasionally. About society events she still hated attending. About Vanessa's visits that were sometimes awkward and always complicated. About all the ways this life was harder than it would have been if she had walked away. Never, not for a second. Not even when people judge you. Especially not then, because their judgment does not define me. I know who I am. I know what I have built. And I know that all of this is exactly where I belong. They stood in her studio as the sun set over Brooklyn. Two people from different worlds who had built a new one together. It was not perfect, it was not easy, but it was real. And real was always better than perfect. That weekend they went back to Corner Cafe. A tradition now. Once a month they returned to where it started. Same table, same coffee. Sometimes Lucas came. Sometimes it was just the two of them. This time it was all three. Lucas ordered hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. Sarah sketched them while they talked. Michael reading the paper, Lucas coloring. An ordinary Saturday morning in an ordinary cafe. Nothing special. Everything special. Sarah looked at her wedding ring, at the family she had chosen and who had chosen her back, at the life she had almost been too scared to reach for. She thought about the $5 blind date, about the mistaken identity that had led to the most honest relationship of her life, about the choice to stay when everything told her to run. "You know what the difference is between a fairy tale and a real story?" Lucas asked suddenly. He had been listening to Sarah and Michael talk the week before. "What is that, buddy?" "Fairy tales end with happily ever after. Real stories keep going." "Smart kid." Michael ruffled his hair. "And we keep choosing happy?" Lucas looked between them. "Every day?" "Every single day." Sarah reached across the table and took Michael's hand. "Even when it is hard. Especially when it is hard. Because that is what family is." Michael looked at both of them. "Being there when it counts." They finished their coffee and hot chocolate and walked out into the Brooklyn sunshine. Lucas between them, holding both their hands, swinging between them and laughing when they lifted him over puddles that did not exist. A family built not on biology or law or money, but on choice, on presence, on love that had been tested and proven stronger than every reason it should not work. Sarah looked back at the cafe one last time, at the window where a nervous waitress had approached the wrong man over 2 years ago and changed both their lives. She smiled. The best mistakes were the ones that led you home. And she was finally, completely, home. The $5 coffee that was supposed to buy one forgettable evening had bought them everything that mattered: time, presence, truth. A family that chose each other daily. A love that had survived lies and judgment and battles that should have destroyed it. They had not gotten a fairy tale ending. They had gotten something better, a real story, one that kept going, one where happily ever after was not a destination, but a choice made fresh every morning. And Sarah Mitchell Thornton chose it, every single day, for the rest of her life.